Chapter 26-25. Su Zimo did not plan to reveal Master of Six Brahma Heaven's true identity for the time being. On one hand, it was because of Bo Sun's warning. More importantly, Master of Six Brahma Heaven's reputation in the hearts of the immortals in the Nine Heavens immortal realm, not only in the pure land of bliss. If Su Zimo revealed the truth and said that Master of Six Brahma Heaven was Bo Sun, there would be only one outcome for him. He would be regarded as a lunatic with ulterior motives. Countless people would even suspect his motives. They would suspect that he was a member of the demon realm and was here to slander Master of Six Brahma Heaven and sow discord between the two realms. Master of Six Brahma Heaven did not even have to do anything. Countless crazy believers would step forward and tear him to pieces. Who would believe that he was a level 9 heavenly immortal and suspect Master of Six Brahma Heaven, a benevolent Buddhist emperor who sacrificed himself to save others? Looking at the benevolent Master of Six Brahma Heaven surrounded by immortals and monks, Su Zimo felt a chill in his heart. The situation in the heavenly realm was getting more and more chaotic. No one knew what would happen in the future. Of course, Su Zimo was slightly relieved that Bo Sun was not without opponents. In this life, Bo Sun was not the only one who had reappeared. There was also a demon emperor who was older than him. Now, he was sitting in the demon realm. Even if Bo Sun could wreak havoc in the pure land of bliss, he could only occupy one realm at most. If he wanted to regain control of the demon realm, he would have to face the world devastation demon emperor. At that time, there would be a battle between the two demon emperors. It would be best if both sides suffered great losses. Even if one side was defeated, the other side would suffer great losses. This was a great opportunity for the Nine Heavens immortal realm. At that time, the Nine Heavens immortal realm would be able to gather strength and suppress the remaining demon emperors. Who was that? At this moment, a furious roar rang out. A powerful aura shrouded the immortals and monks of the two realms. It made their hearts tremble. This was the wrath of an emperor. Su Zimo followed the voice and saw Tai Shao, immortal emperor, looking around. His gaze swept past immortal King Qing Yang and the others. He asked coldly, "Chang Yi and Qin Su are dead. You didn't even see them? Are they all blind?" Immortal King Green Sun and the others lowered their heads, not daring to utter a word. Although they were all immortal kings, and many of them were peerless immortal kings, they still had to obediently bow their heads in front of an immortal emperor. Being reprimanded by the immortal emperor, he didn't even dare to retort. Su Zimo's heart trembled. Prince Qin Su is also dead. Although Qin Su was severely injured by Wu Dao's true body and his body was destroyed, he still had a strand of Yuan Shen left, which was carried by the Eternal Night Immortal King for protection. Who would have thought that the mysterious expert hidden in the depths of the void would not only kill the Eternal Night Immortal King, but also the Imperial Prince, Qin Su? Su Zimo originally thought that the death of the peerless immortal king had alarmed immortal Emperor Tai Shao. Now that he looked at it, it was probably because of Qin Su's death that the immortal Emperor Tai Shao decided to come out. Of course, there was another reason. When the mysterious expert killed the Eternal Night Immortal King and Imperial Prince Qin Su, he should have also taken the Tai Ching Jade Book. Which one of you has the Tai Ching Jade Book? At this moment, the immortal Emperor Tai Shao stared at immortal King Green Sun and the others and asked coldly. Immortal King Green Sun and the other immortal kings were shocked and hurriedly shook their heads. This was no small matter, and they didn't dare to be perfunctory. Immortal King Green Sun said in a deep voice, "Immortal Emperor, Qin Su was severely injured by Araki Takashi of the demon domain and his body was destroyed. Only his Yuan Shen and the Tai Ching Jade Book escaped. In order to protect Qin Su, Taoist Eternal Night took Qin Su's Yuan Shen and the Tai Ching Jade Book with him. Now that Taoist Eternal Night and Qin Su are dead, the Tai Ching Jade Book should have been taken by the mysterious person." Immortal King Qi Ping hesitated for a moment and said, "Immortal Emperor, at that time, I noticed that the mysterious person's methods were a little similar to..." Immortal King Qi Ping wanted to say something but stopped. "Speak." The immortal Emperor Tai Shao shouted, "It's a little like the methods of the witch race." Immortal King Qi Ping said. Immortal King Green Sun nodded slightly and said, At that time, in the depths of the void, there was indeed a flash of green light that entered between immortal King Eternal Night's eyebrows and killed him. The witch race. The immortal Emperor Tai Shao frowned slightly, and his face was gloomy. If this matter involved an expert from outside the heaven realm, it would be difficult to deal with. Could he rush to the witch world and ask for the person just because of a few words from immortal King Green Sun and the others? Even if it was really done by an expert from the witch race, he wouldn't be stupid enough to stand up. The most likely possibility was that this matter would be left unsettled. Immortal Emperor Tai Shao felt a wave of frustration at the thought of this. He only felt a little regretful about the death of immortal King Eternal Night. Qin Su's premature death and the loss of the Taiching Jade Book made him very angry. Immortal King Green Sun and the others also saw the most likely outcome of this matter. Naturally, they could guess the anger in immortal Emperor Tai Zhao's heart at this time. Zen Master Huiwen couldn't help but say, "In my opinion, the cause of this matter is Araki Takashi of the Demon Realm. The supreme arhat of the Pure Land of Bliss, Shi Wunyan, was killed by Wu Dao's original body. The Buddhist monks naturally hated Wu Dao's original body to the bone. Since there was nothing they could do about the witch world, it was better to let immortal Emperor Tai Shao vent his anger on Araki Takashi of the Demon Realm." Zen Master Huiwen said, "If it weren't for Araki Takashi of the Demon Realm coming to the Nine Heavens Immortal Realm to cause trouble, injuring little friend Qin Su, and then chasing after fellow Taoist Eternal Night, the two of them wouldn't have been ambushed and died." Araki Takashi of the Demon Realm. Immortal Emperor Tai Shao narrowed his eyes slightly and murmured softly. After a while, immortal Emperor Tai Shao said, "Araki Takashi of the Demon Realm has the prison suppressing cauldron and is hiding in the Avicii Hell. With my methods, I can't do anything to him." Zen Master Huiwen hurriedly said, "Although Araki Takashi is hiding, his Heaven Wasteland sect is still in the Demon Realm. Why don't?" Zen Master Huiwen's meaning was very obvious. He wanted to ask immortal Emperor Tai Shao to take action and destroy the Heaven Wasteland sect of the Demon Realm. But before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by a Buddhist chant. Amitabha. Six Brahma Heaven Lord shook his head slightly, looked at Zen Master Huiwen, and slowly said, "Huiwen, your killing intent is too strong. If you don't wake up in time, I'm afraid you will be in danger of becoming a demon." Zen Master Huiwen was shocked. Six Brahma Heaven Lord's eyes looked full of wisdom, as if he could see through all his thoughts and intentions. All his thoughts, under the gaze of Six Brahma Heaven Lord, seemed to have nowhere to hide. Zen Master Huiwen was sweating profusely under Six Brahma Heaven Lord's gaze. He hurriedly bowed his head and said, "Thank you for the warning, this little monk knows his mistake." Six Brahma Heaven Lord nodded slightly. "You must remember, between becoming a Buddha and becoming a demon, you must guard your heart and not fall into the demon path." Zen Master Huiwen repeatedly agreed. Six Brahma Heaven Lord turned his head to look at immortal Emperor Tai Shao, nodded slightly and said, "Benefactor, please calm down and listen to me. Although Araki Takashi of the Demon Realm is hiding in the Avicii Hell, it is still unknown whether Emperor Bo Sun is hiding in the Heaven Wasteland sect. What's more, the World Devastator Demon Emperor is guarding the Demon Realm. If Benefactor goes to the Demon Realm and is discovered by the World Devastator Demon Emperor, it will be very difficult to escape unscathed. This matter needs to be considered at length." Chapter 26-26. You're right, fellow Taoist. Immortal Emperor Tai Shao nodded slightly and replied. In fact, even without Lord Six Brahma's persuasion, he wouldn't rush to the Demon Realm to destroy the Heaven Baron sect just to vent his anger. The Heaven Baron sect had been able to stand in the Demon Realm for so many years, so they must have something to rely on. Ever since the World Devastation Demon Emperor appeared, he had swept through the Demon Realm and continued to conquer, but he had never touched the Heaven Baron sect. Of course, it could be explained that the Heaven Baron sect was at the edge of the Demon Realm, and the World Devastation Demon Emperor didn't care about it. But there was another possibility. Perhaps there was some force or someone behind the Heaven Baron sect that made the World Devastation Demon Emperor afraid. Immortal Emperor Tai Shao had lived for millions of years, 10 times longer than Zen Master Hui Wen and the other immortal kings. What hadn't he seen? How could Zen Master Hui Wen's intention to kill with a borrowed knife be hidden from him? Since Lord Six Brahma had come forward to persuade him, he didn't insist and went with the flow. There were traces of people from the witch world in today's matter? Immortal Emperor Tai Zhao's eyes were gloomy. Although he couldn't make trouble for the witch world because of this, he was still prepared to go to the witch world to see if he could find some clues. Immortal Emperor Tai Zhao cupped his hands slightly at Lord Six Brahma, turned around, tore open the void, and disappeared. Everyone, let's go. Lord Six Brahma looked at the immortals and monks of the two realms and said with a smile. In the eyes of everyone, although Lord Six Brahma was an imperial emperor, he didn't have the majesty and arrogance of an imperial emperor. He was approachable and not like immortal Emperor Tai Zhao, who always had a condescending attitude. The cultivators thanked him again. Lord Six Brahma nodded slightly. Before leaving, his gaze seemed to have inadvertently swept past Su Zimo's face, then turned and left, disappearing into the horizon. After the two imperial emperors left, the immortals and monks present heaved a sigh of relief. In front of the two imperial emperors, even immortal kings would feel a kind of omnipresent pressure. This was the unique majesty of an imperial emperor. The majesty of an imperial emperor couldn't be offended. Only those who had cultivated to the level of sovereign emperors could be considered the pinnacle of existence in the upper realm. They could rule over the world and rule over billions of living beings. The cultivators of the two regions were originally overjoyed to have escaped with their lives. However, it didn't take long for the joy in everyone's hearts to fade. Their expressions were complicated. The meeting of the continent of the Nine Clouds had been a complete failure. At the continent of the Nine Clouds meeting, the true celestial ranking list and the Arhat ranking list were supposed to determine the peerless true celestial ranking list and the peerless Arhat ranking list. But he didn't expect that the true immortal ranking list and the Arhat ranking list would all become a wedding dress for someone else. The so-called Supreme True Immortals and Supreme Arhats had also become stepping stones for others, creating the incomparably ferocious name of Araki Takashi of the Devil Domain. Shi Wunyan had just become a Supreme Arhat when he was killed by Araki Takashi with a single punch. For example, the Moonlight Sword Immortal and the Zither Immortal Meng Yao from the Divine Firmament Immortal Realm had also met a tragic end. Not only had Meng Yao lost to the Zither demon of the Heaven Baron sect in the Tao of the Zither, her appearance had also been disfigured and could never be restored. It could be said that Meng Yao had lost everything during the meeting of the continent of the Nine Clouds. Her glory, her Tao of the Zither, her appearance, these things that had made her proud had all been trampled under the feet of Araki Takashi from the Devil Domain. Meng Yao seemed to have lost her soul. Her expression was blank, and her eyes were empty. She was like a walking corpse, following the crowd of the Mountain and Sea Celestial sect. Originally, she was like a moon surrounded by stars, but now, she was no longer surrounded by people. Even many of the Mountain and Sea Celestial sect's disciples looked disgusted when they saw the hideous scars on her face. They subconsciously distanced themselves from her. The Moonlight Sword Immortal's fate was even worse. She had been hit countless times. Even if she had survived, it would have been a fate worse than death. At the meeting of the continent of the Nine Clouds, the cultivators of the two regions were in high spirits. The geniuses of the true immortal ranking list and the Arhat ranking list were even more enthusiastic. They hadn't thought that such a beautiful scene would be destroyed in the blink of an eye. At that moment, the cultivators of the two regions were a little depressed. Not to mention them, even all the immortal kings present here felt bitter in their hearts. Celestial King Qing Yang and the others didn't even want to think about what had just happened. The immortals and monks of the two regions, more than 20 peerless celestial kings, and more than 100 ordinary celestial kings, had been defeated by Araki Takashi alone. Among the cultivators of the two regions, there were a few who were feeling very different from the others. Yun Zhu looked relaxed. Mo Qing lowered her head slightly. No one knew what she was thinking, but there was a faint smile at the corner of her mouth. Araki Takashi is such a decisive person. Why didn't he kill me? My 9 palace subtle steps has already reached the 8th level. How could he break it in an instant? Junyu's eyes were still filled with confusion. She didn't understand. Lin Lei couldn't help but sigh. I didn't expect that in only 2,000 years, Araki Takashi would become stronger than Lang Fengqing. And he has grown to this extent. Before this, Lin Lei still had a glimmer of hope that one day, he would be able to challenge Araki Takashi. However, after today, he would no longer have the same thought. If you aren't in a hurry to return to the academy, why don't you take a rest at my place? Immortal Emperor Ling Long transmitted her voice to Su Zimo. I happen to have something to tell you too. Sure. Su Zimo immediately agreed. He said, I'll pay Senior Human Emperor a visit then. Su Zimo told Mo Qing and followed Immortal Emperor Ling Long and the others back to the Sengoku Kingdom in the Qingshao Immortal Realm. After arriving at the Sengoku Kingdom, Immortal Emperor Ling Long dismissed the cultivators of the Sengoku Kingdom. She then brought Lin Lei, his sister, and Su Zimo back to the palace of the Sengoku Kingdom. You two should go back and rest. Immortal Emperor Ling Long said to Lin Lei and Lin Luo. Mother, little sister and I haven't paid father a visit yet. Lin Lei frowned. He glanced at Su Zimo beside him and murmured in his heart. Why is mother so polite to Su Zimo? You don't have to today. Go and rest. Come back tomorrow. Immortal Emperor Ling Long sent Lin Lei and his sister away. Then, she said to Su Zimo, thank you for saving Lei and Luo our last time. When he saw that there was no one else around, Su Zimo asked, by the way, how is Senior Human Emperor's injury? Immortal Emperor Ling Long hesitated. She shook her head and sighed. As expected, it didn't work. Su Zimo frowned. When he had given Lin Luo the worryless fruit, he had guessed that the worryless fruit and the 9 revolving yang pill might not be enough to heal the human emperor's injury. Immortal Emperor Ling Long, you came here on purpose, right? Asked Su Zimo. Immortal Emperor Ling Long nodded and said, if I hadn't shown up this time and stayed in the Sengoku Kingdom, other people would have known that the War King's injury hadn't healed yet. This time, I showed up at the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. At least, many influential groups wouldn't suspect me. Chapter 26-27. Not long after, Immortal King Ling Long brought Su Zimo to a bedchamber. The bedchamber was filled with dense immortal mist and a strong herbal smell. Through the heavy mist, one could vaguely see a figure sitting cross-legged on the bed, cultivating. Although they hadn't seen each other for many years, Su Zimo recognized the human Emperor Lin Zhan at first glance. Compared to when he was in Tianhuang mainland, the human emperor's appearance hadn't changed much. However, unlike the peerless and sharp aura he had during the battle on Tianhuang mainland, the human emperor now looked like an ordinary middle-aged man. Lin Zhan closed his eyes and frowned slightly as if he was in a critical situation and couldn't solve it for the time being. Su Zimo didn't say anything to disturb him. He only waved his hand at Immortal King Ling Long. Immortal King Ling Long nodded apologetically and led Su Zimo to the other side to rest for a while. Avicii Hell. Wu Dao's original body was invincible during the 9 Clouds Convention. He was able to form a grotto heaven, suppress the celestials of the 2 regions, and retreat unscathed. It could be said that it was perfect. However, under the Mo Luo mask, Wu Dao's original body's expression was a little serious. He recalled something. Just now, under the divine tree of Builder Wood, when he broke through and formed a grotto heaven, he suddenly felt a great danger. At that time, no one on the battlefield could threaten him at all. That sense of danger came without warning and disappeared quickly. Even with his spiritual senses, he couldn't determine the source. At that time, he was surrounded by 19 peerless celestial kings, so he didn't think much. Now that he had calmed down and recalled that fleeting sense of crisis, the martial Dao true body felt a faint sense of unease in his heart. Did it come from the mysterious expert hidden in the void who killed Celestial King Changya, or from the 6 Brahma Heaven Lord who came later? Or was it some other powerful existence that he couldn't predict? That feeling was too terrifying. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that since Wu Dao's original body was born, he felt such a strong sense of danger for the first time. Even when he faced the world destruction demon emperor, he didn't have such a strong feeling. Wu Dao's original body pondered for a long time in the Avicii hell, but he had no clue. Now that he had transformed into a paradise under the divine skywood tree, his battle prowess had skyrocketed. His martial Dao true body had already decided to head to the great wilderness. Back then, before Daiyue Budian left, she noticed a sentence he had written at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley and praised him. "How bold, he's no weaker than me. I will be waiting for you in the higher realms. I hope that one day, you can shine through the mountains and rivers of the higher realms and meet me again." These were Dai Yu's last words to him. Wu Dao's main body had cultivated to such a level. Although Wu Dao hadn't become a king yet, he was still a king. However, with the help of the true Wu Dao's body, he was able to form a grotto heaven, allowing him to control the power of the grotto heaven realm first. With his current strength, although he had not reached the stage where he could illuminate the mountains and rivers of the upper realm, he was qualified to head to the vast wilderness to look for Daiyu. However, Wu Dao's main body was not in a hurry to leave. He still had many questions about the Avicii hell and wanted to find an answer. All these years, he had been cultivating in seclusion in the Avicii hell. He had the prison-suppressing cauldron. Apart from the Avicii hell, he could freely stay in the other smaller hells. He was already familiar with every corner of this hell. However, Wu Dao's main body still could not understand why the Emperor of Avicii had created the Avicii hell. To suppress demons? There were indeed many powerful beings buried in the Avicii hell. However, they were far from the level where the Emperor of Avicii would pay so much attention to them. The true core of the Avicii hell was the deepest Avicii hell. Legend had it that the Avicii hell was formed from the Emperor of Avicii's flesh and blood. What kind of opponent would make the Emperor of Avicii go to such lengths, even sacrificing himself and using his flesh and blood to create a hell to suppress them? What happened back then? Did this matter have anything to do with the legendary demon lord who had stirred up chaos in the 3,000 realms? All sorts of questions lingered in the mind of Wu Dao's main body. Before heading to the great wilderness, he planned to explore the core of the Avicii hell, the deepest part of the Avicii hell. All the answers might lie in the Avicii hell. Back then, he had been thrown into the Avicii hell by Emperor Bo Sun. He had been trapped and tortured inside. If not for the arrival of Qinglian's true body, Wu Dao's main body would never have been able to escape. Now that he had the prison-suppressing cauldron and could transform into a grotto heaven, his combat strength was enough to suppress peerless immortal kings. He could explore the Avicii hell again. Apart from the prison-suppressing cauldron, he also had a soul lamp. Moreover, the soul lamp in the tomb of Emperor Zongtian had burned many ghost immortals. It had long been filled with oil. Once lit, it would be enough to last him for a long time. Even if he encountered any danger in the Avicii hell, he could retreat at any time with the prison-suppressing cauldron and soul lamp in hand. With that thought, Wu Dao's main body took out the prison-suppressing cauldron and held it in his hand. With a flash, he passed through layers of space and arrived above the Avicii hell. Below him was a giant pitch-black vortex. At the center of it was a door. It was bottomless and emitted a terrifying aura. Behind the door, there seemed to be the cries of ghosts and demonic shadows. The scene of Emperor Bo Sun throwing him into the door of Avicii flashed across his mind. At that time, he was forced to enter the Avicii hell. This time, Wu Dao's main body took the initiative to enter the Avicii hell to find the answer. Wu Dao's main body leaped with the prison-suppressing cauldron. Previously, in the door of Avicii, it felt like countless pale arms were dragging him into the Avicii hell. This time, with the prison-suppressing cauldron in his hand, the pitch-black vortex below him came to a stop. The Avicii demonic chi rapidly dispersed, revealing a passage. After all, the prison-suppressing cauldron was the emperor weapon of the Emperor Wu Ji. It was also the key to the Avicii hell. Wu Dao's main body passed through the door of Avicii and returned to the Avicii hell. The eerie and terrifying feeling surfaced once again. After entering the Avicii hell, he lost all his 5 senses and spirit perception. Although he had already grasped the power of the grotto heaven, Wu Dao's main body could not see anything in the Avicii hell. There was no darkness or light here, chaos was unknown. He could not sense the passage of time. It was as though he was floating in midair without any support or sense the existence of space. Unlike the previous time, he was holding the prison-suppressing cauldron this time round. The endless hellfire that could cause one endless pain did not descend on him. Wu Dao's main body could not sense the direction and could only walk forward instinctively. The surroundings were silent without any sound. There was not even the sound of his footsteps. After an unknown period of time, Wu Dao's main body still did not discover anything. As he had expected, he did not encounter any danger in the Avicii hell with the prison-suppressing cauldron. However, he did not gain anything either. Should he continue walking aimlessly or leave? Just as Wu Dao's main body was hesitating, a commotion came from the depths of darkness or chaos to his left. Chapter 26-28. Wu Dao's true body turned around with a solemn expression. He placed the hell-suppressing cauldron in front of him and his figure flickered in and out of sight. He was prepared to transform into a grotto heaven and release his full strength at any moment. However, Wu Dao's true body relaxed before long. The commotion on the other side was not a living being. It was more like a will. Wu Dao's true body had been in the Avicii hell for so long, and this was the first time he had sensed the existence of other, even if it was just a will. No one knew how long the owner of this will had been in the Avicii hell. After it appeared, it released an intense hostility towards Wu Dao's true body. It tried to shake the Dao heart of Wu Dao's true body and released all sorts of terrifying scenes in the consciousness of Wu Dao's true body. Some were tempting, some were threatening. Wu Dao's true body stood on the spot motionlessly, allowing the will to cast whatever it wanted. Such tricks posed no threat to Wu Dao's true body at all. It was just a remnant will without any substantial strength, and the methods it could use were limited. Wu Dao's true body had a calm expression. There was no contempt or mockery in his eyes. He was just lamenting. The owner of this will must have been a top-notch expert comparable to the Arch back in the day. Otherwise, the infernal the Arch would not have sacrificed himself and used his body to create hell to suppress this place. Wu Dao's true body had endured the infernal pain in the Avicii hell. The so-called infernal pain did not only refer to the infernal pain in space, time, and time. There was also the infernal pain. Once one fell into the Avicii hell, they would immediately suffer the infernal pain without any pause. There was also the infernal pain. From a certain perspective, living beings that fell into the Avicii hell were almost immortal. Unless the Avicii Great Hell was destroyed, the living beings here would forever be in agony, unable to find relief. There was also the infernal pain. Regardless of whether one fell into the Avicii hell was a living being with flesh and blood or just a soul, every inch of the body and soul would suffer the infernal pain. How powerful was this expert who was comparable to a great emperor back then? However, after falling into the hell of Avicii and enduring the torment of endless years, only a remnant will was left. Facing Wu Dao's true body, he could only use such low-level tricks. It was truly a pity. When this remnant will saw Wu Dao's true body holding the prison-suppressing cauldron, it must have thought that he was the successor of the Emperor of Infinity. That was why it was so hostile. However, this remnant will pose no threat to Wu Dao's true body. "Who are you?" Wu Dao's main body tried asking. However, he realized that when he spoke, there was no sound at all. The other party could not hear him either. Even if the other party really said something, he wouldn't be able to hear it. This was the Avicii Great Hell. A voice. Even divine sense transmissions were useless. Unable to communicate. Because of the appearance of this will, Wu Dao's main body decided to continue exploring. When Wu Dao's main body decided to leave, this remnant will revealed a hint of pleading, wanting Wu Dao's main body to stay. During the endless years, while enduring endless pain, the owner of this will also endured the pain of loneliness. There was no sound, no space, no time, no other life. There was only endless pain and torment. Wu Dao's main body ignored it and continued to move forward. After an unknown period of time, another will came from the depths of hell to his right. Wu Dao's main body could vaguely tell that this will was slightly different from the previous one. However, the same thing was that this will also developed a strong hostility towards Wu Dao's main body. It used some low-level tricks to threaten him. Wu Dao's main body was unmoved and continued to move forward. After a long time, a third will did not appear. After walking for such a long time in the empty hell of Avicii, only 2 wisps of remnant will flickered across the place. Wu Dao's main body did not gain anything after staying here for so long. Even if he encountered 2 remnant wills, he could not obtain any useful information since both parties could not communicate. The surroundings were endless without light or darkness. Under such circumstances, I'm afraid I won't be able to find any answers even if I continue walking. Wu Dao's main body sighed gently. Just as he was about to turn and leave, his heart stirred and he suddenly took out his soul lamp and other items from his storage bag. After transforming into a grotto heaven, Wu Dao's main body could already resist the strong suction force on his essence spirit by touching the soul lamp with his physical body. Wu Dao's main body released an essence spirit flame and lit the soul lamp. The soul lamp lit up and a ball of light appeared in the hell of Avicii. Light shone, accompanied by darkness. Initially, there was no light or darkness in the hell of Avicii. However, with the ignition of the soul lamp, the surrounding chaos turned into darkness and was gradually dispelled. There was a 10 feet wide patch of light around Wu Dao's main body. That bit of light made him feel more at ease. Right then, the flame that was initially burning vertically in the soul lamp suddenly deviated slightly in a certain direction. Wu Dao's main body focused his gaze. It felt as though the flame of the soul lamp was being guided in that direction by some sort of power. In the hell of Avicii, Wu Dao's main body had already lost all sense of direction and could only continue forward. But now that he was guided by the soul lamp, he was invigorated. No matter what, the abnormality of the soul lamp was at least a clue. Taking a deep breath of air, Wu Dao's main body strode in the direction of the soul lamp's flame. After an unknown period of time, Wu Dao's main body gradually slowed down and looked at the ground not far away with a confused expression. Initially, the soul lamp was the only source of light in the hell of Avicii. However, there was another light shining on the ground not far away. Wu Dao's main body walked over and focused his gaze when he got closer. Half of an ancient mirror-like object was buried in the dust on the ground. The light he saw earlier on was refracted by the soul lamp of the ancient mirror. After pondering for a moment, Wu Dao's main body squatted down and retrieved the half of the ancient mirror from the dust. The ancient mirror had been buried in the hell of Avicii for an unknown period of time and it looked perfectly fine even now. There was a sinister blood color on the surface of the mirror that gave off a sinister feeling. An ancient mirror buried in the hell of Avicii was definitely not an ordinary item. Furthermore, it was a treasure from the epic of the Empyrean Emperor. Wu Dao's main body propped up the ancient mirror and touched it with his palm. There seemed to be some marks on the back of the ancient mirror. Wu Dao's main body flipped the ancient mirror over. There were 4 words carved on the back of the ancient mirror. Netherworld Treasure Mirror. Wu Dao's main body flipped the ancient mirror over. There were 4 words carved on the back of the ancient mirror. Netherworld Treasure Mirror. Chapter 26-29. Wu Dao's original body tried to release his consciousness and swept it across the Netherworld Treasure Mirror. He only felt that it was a little eerie and cold, but did not find anything else. No matter how he tried, even when he released the power of the heavenly abode, the Netherworld Treasure Mirror did not react at all. Wu Dao's original body stood up and planned to put away the Netherworld Treasure Mirror first and continue to search in the direction of the soul lamp's flame. However, he suddenly realized that the Netherworld Treasure Mirror could not be placed in his storage bag at all. Although the storage bag was open, there was an unresolvable resistance between it and the Netherworld Treasure Mirror. Wu Dao's original body did not dare to casually throw this unknown ancient mirror into his sea of consciousness. After pondering for a while, Wu Dao's original body put the Netherworld Treasure Mirror into his chest pocket. He held the soul lamp and continued to walk in the direction of the flame. After an unknown period of time, a tall silhouette vaguely appeared in the darkness in front of him. When he got closer, Wu Dao's original body was surprised to find that what stood in front of him was a desolate and lonely ancient city. There was an ancient city in the depths of the Avicii Great Hell? This ancient city had no walls. The entrance of the ancient city was like the bloody mouth of an ancient giant beast. It was deep and dark inside, and the path could not be seen clearly. Wu Dao's original body hesitated for a moment, but he still walked into the ancient city. The ancient city was quiet. There was no sign of life on both sides of the street. However, after entering the ancient city, the despair, pain, and suffocating atmosphere of the Avicii Great Hell seemed to have suddenly disappeared. This ancient city seemed to be a world of its own, completely isolating the inside of the city from the Avicii Great Hell outside. Wu Dao's original body held the hell-suppressing cauldron in his left hand and the soul lamp in his right as he walked along the street. There was nothing on the empty street except for the faint sound of his footsteps. After a while, Wu Dao's original body seemed to have reached the end of the street, and his footsteps gradually slowed down. There was an ancient well at the end of the street in an open space. It seemed a little out of place. Wu Dao's original body looked around and found nothing. Only then did he walk towards the ancient well. By the time he reached the edge of the ancient well, the flame of the soul lamp had returned to its normal state. It was as if this ancient well was the destination of the soul lamp. Wu Dao lowered his head and looked into the ancient well. It was dark and gloomy inside, and there was no sign of life. When his divine sense entered the ancient well, it was like a stone ox entering the sea, disappearing in an instant. Wu Dao's true body leaned forward and slowly sent his soul lamp into the ancient well. He wanted to see if he could find anything. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from behind him. It was very close. "What did you see?" Wu Dao's body stiffened, and he felt a chill run down his spine. His mind was greatly shaken. The voice did not belong to the remnant will of the Hell of Avicii. Wu Dao's main body could clearly feel that there was someone standing behind him. A living person. He could even feel the breathing of the person behind him. How could this be? How could there be anyone alive in this ancient city in the depths of the Hell of Avicii? Furthermore, just now, he had checked carefully and found that there was no sign of life in the surroundings, let alone a living person. In fact, he did not even know when the living person arrived. How did the person appear behind him? That voice sounded familiar. However, the appearance of the voice was way too sudden and strange. Wu Dao's main body was shocked and did not think too much about it. His spirit perception did not give him any warning. The best guess was that the person did not have any enmity towards him. However, there was another possibility. The person was strong enough to hide from his spirit perception. Wu Dao's main body did not escape right away. If the person behind him wanted to attack him, there was no need for them to make a sound. He was completely unprepared. Wu Dao's main body turned around slowly and held the health suppression cauldron and soul lamp horizontally before his chest, fully alert. Even though he was prepared, when he turned around and saw who it was, he was still shocked. His eyes were filled with disbelief. "Senior, it's you." A look of realization flashed through the mind of Wu Dao's main body. It was no wonder that the voice he had heard earlier sounded somewhat familiar. The person standing before him was the long-browed old monk who was known as the tomb keeper in the backyard of Shura Monastery on the Grand Tai Wei Mountain. Wu Dao's main body did not have much interaction with the old monk. Back then, the two of them had met once. Wu Dao's main body could vaguely sense that this old monk was extraordinary. Later on, Qinglian's main body, Yun Zhu and Imo Qing left the Hell of Avicii and were intercepted by 8 heavenly kings of the Buddhist monasteries. At that time, this old monk was the one who attacked and killed more than half of the 8 heavenly kings of the Buddhist monasteries. To be precise, the old monk did not attack at all. He merely said a single sentence and a heavenly king of the Buddhist monasteries would die. He merely glanced at a heavenly king of the Buddhist monasteries and the latter would die on the spot. Of the 8 heavenly kings of the Buddhist monasteries, only 3 managed to escape in time and hid in the Hell of Avicii. They could be considered to have escaped from the hands of the old monk. However, at that time, Wu Dao's main body was guarding the Hell of Avicii and the 3 heavenly kings were buried in the Hell of Avicii. After that, he had not heard any news about the old monk. He had asked Yun Zhu but there were no clues. Although the old monk looked like he was at the end of his life and could exhaust his lifespan at any moment, his strength was frighteningly strong. Wu Dao's main body had not expected to see the old monk again in the ancient city of the Hell of Avicii. He relied on the hell suppression cauldron and soul lamp to pass through the Hell of Avicii and arrive here. How did the old monk come over? Even imperial lords might not be able to leave alive if they were trapped in the small hell outside, let alone the Hell of Avicii in the middle. Could the old monk be a great emperor? Wu Dao's main body was shocked when that thought flashed through his mind. However, he calmed down before long. There was no way he was a great emperor. According to what he knew, ever since the eternal emperor passed away, no great emperors were born in this generation. If someone had truly attained the Tao and become a great emperor, the news would have spread through the 3,000 worlds. Senior, how did you? Wu Dao's main body was confused. When he saw that the old monk did not have any hostility towards him, he could not help but ask. But before he could finish his words, the old monk suddenly stretched out his skinny hand and pushed it towards his chest. Wu Dao's main body was startled. He watched helplessly as the old monk's skinny palm pushed towards him. However, his body seemed to be out of his control and he could not move at all. Even with the health suppression cauldron and soul lamp, it was useless. What was the old monk trying to do? Was he trying to kill him? In a flash, countless thoughts flashed through the mind of Wu Dao's main body. Chapter 2630. As thousands of thoughts flashed through his mind, the old monk's skinny palm had already slapped the chest of Wu Dao's true body. Wu Dao's true body could not move and was prepared to die here. Given the strength of the old monk, even if he had a grotto heaven and a perfected Wu Dao body, he would definitely not be able to withstand that palm strike. However, when the old monk's palm landed, Wu Dao's true body did not feel any pain. To be precise, the old monk merely pushed him gently. At that moment, Wu Dao's true body was standing at the edge of the ancient well. After being pushed by the old monk, he lost control of his body and fell into the dark and sinister ancient well. Wu Dao's true body was devoured by the darkness as he fell into an endless dark abyss. The surrounding ancient city and ancient well seemed to have vanished instantly. The old monk was the only one left. The old monk arrived at the edge of the dark abyss and looked down at the falling Wu Dao's true body. The corners of the old monk's lips curled up slightly. His wrinkled old face seemed to reveal a mysterious smile. A strange look flashed through the depths of the old monk's murky eyes. The next moment, Wu Dao's true body was completely devoured by the darkness and he could not see anything. At the same time, he lost contact with Qinglian's true body completely. Green Firmament Immortal Domain, Warring States. The Human Emperor's Chamber. Shrouded in immortal fog, Su Zimo shuddered and clenched his fists instinctively. Suddenly, he stood up with a furious expression. After Wu Dao's true body entered the Avicii Hell, Qinglian's true body had been paying attention to Wu Dao's true body the entire time. After Wu Dao's true body refined the Hell Suppression Cauldron, it was equivalent to him controlling the Avicii Hell. Even though Wu Dao's true body was in the Avicii Hell and had just entered, the two true bodies still maintained a connection. Therefore, everything that Wu Dao's original body experienced in the Hell of Avicii, Qinglian's true body was clear as if she was there herself. Therefore, when Wu Dao's original body was pushed into the dark abyss by the old monk, Qinglian's true body lost her composure. He had completely lost the ability to sense Wu Dao's true body. Su Zimo's expression turned ugly. Wu Dao's true body had just condensed a grotto heaven, and the real Wu Dao's body had reached perfection. Even the direction of Wu Dao's next level of cultivation had been deduced. He never imagined that he would actually encounter such an unexpected calamity in the Avicii Hell, and his fate was unknown. Su Zimo had not expected to bump into the old monk guarding the tomb in the depths of the Avicii Hell. More than that, he did not expect the old monk to push him into the dark abyss without a second word. At this moment, Su Zimo felt something strange and subconsciously looked over. Not far away, the human Emperor Lin Zhan and immortal King Ling Long were looking at him with worried expressions. His attention was focused on Wu Dao's original body. Only now did Su Zimo regain his senses and recall that he was in the human Emperor's chamber. "I'm Su Zimo from Tianhuang region. Greetings, Senior Human Emperor." Su Zimo suppressed his emotions, took a deep breath, and bowed. Lin Zhan nodded slightly. Immortal King Ling Long looked worried, as if she could see that something serious had happened to Su Zimo. She asked gently, "Are you all right?" "I'm fine." Su Zimo forced a smile. Even if he told them about this matter, the human emperor and immortal King Ling Long could not do anything about it. Even an imperial emperor could not come out of the Avicii hell, let alone the human emperor and immortal King Ling Long who had a grotto heaven. "How long have I been here?" Su Zimo noticed that the human emperor Lin Zhan had already woken up from his recuperation and realized that a lot of time had passed. "It's been 7 days. Immortal King Ling Long said, "We saw that you were in a certain state and seemed to be experiencing something, so we didn't disturb you." Su Zimo sighed in his heart. He didn't expect that Wu Dao's original body's trip to the Avicii hell might seem short, but 7 days had actually passed. Indeed, one could not feel the passage of time in the Avicii hell. "Seniors, have you heard of the Tomb Keeper?" Su Zimo pondered for a while and asked. The human emperor and immortal King Ling Long thought carefully and looked at each other in confusion. They shook their heads slowly. Su Zimo had already expected this. Yunju had read ancient books and was knowledgeable about the past and present, but she had never heard of the Tomb Keeper. It was reasonable that the human emperor and immortal King Ling Long had not heard of it. "Senior human emperor, how are your injuries?" Su Zimo asked again. In the end, the human emperor's current injuries were caused by the calamity that befell the human race in Tianhuang mainland. The human emperor had forcefully descended to the lower worlds. Lin Zhan waved his hand and smiled casually. "I've recovered a little with your 9 revolutions soul return elixir and worryless fruit. My battle strength has also returned to the grotto heaven realm. My life is not in danger." The human emperor didn't say it explicitly, but Su Zimo understood. His battle strength had only barely recovered to the grotto heaven realm. At most, it would be a small grotto heaven, far from the peak of the human emperor realm. The human emperor smiled and said, "Don't worry about me. I've been suffering from these injuries in the upper worlds all these years. It's boring. On the other hand, Ling Long and I are really shocked after you ascended. In less than 10,000 years, your true body, Qinglian, has already reached the peak of the 9th level heaven immortal. As long as there's a suitable opportunity, you can form the fruit of Tao at any time and enter the true self realm. And your true body with the title Araki Takashi is even more powerful. You caused a commotion at the Feast of Peaches in the Jade Cloud Immortal Domain. The battle in the 9 Clouds Immortal Domain can be said to have shocked the world and become famous. It's a pity that I couldn't see it with my own eyes. It's a pity." The human emperor Lin Zhan's face was full of smiles. He praised Su Zimo greatly and looked gratified. All these years, he had been suffering from injuries. The Warring States period was filled with internal and external troubles. He was always worried and almost never smiled. Right now, meeting Su Zimo was the happiest thing for him in recent years. On the one hand, it was rare to see an old friend from Tianhuang mainland. He felt very close to him. On the other hand, he was also very gratified to see the juniors of Tianhuang mainland rise quickly and become famous in the heaven realm. Back then, he risked serious injuries and forcefully descended to the lower worlds. He had used Su Zimo's body to fight against the emperors of the various races. This process was equivalent to leaving his Tao to Su Zimo. Before he left, he even passed the position of the human emperor to this young man. Even the human emperor Lin Zhan didn't expect that young man to be so famous in the heaven realm after ascending to the upper worlds. "Bring me wine." Speaking of which, the human emperor waved his hand. Immortal King Ling Long smiled and said proudly, "I've already prepared it. Today, count me in. Let's drink to our heart's content." "It's a pity that Brother Feng is not here." The human emperor shook his head slightly and said with a regretful tone. Immortal King Ling Long took out 3 jars of wine and left one for the human emperor and Su Zimo. Chapter 2631. After the 3 of them drank to their heart's content, Su Zimo finally calmed down a little and gradually let go of the matter of Wu Dao's original body. It was useless even if he kept thinking about it. Back then, Wu Dao's original body had fallen into the Avicii Great Hell and lost contact with him once. However, at that time, the prison-suppressing cauldron was in the hands of Qinglian's original body. After Qinglian's original body entered the Avicii Great Hell, she re-established contact with Wu Dao's original body and rescued Wu Dao's original body. This time, the prison-suppressing cauldron and the soul lamp were in the hands of Wu Dao's original body. Given the current cultivation level of Qinglian's original body, entering the Avicii Great Hell was a dead end, let alone rescuing Wu Dao's original body. The only thing that made Su Zimo feel slightly relieved was that before Wu Dao's original body fell into the dark abyss, the old monk's face had revealed a mysterious smile. That smile did not seem to be hostile or murderous, but seemed to have a deeper meaning. Last time, when he lost contact with Wu Dao's original body, he at least knew where Wu Dao's original body had gone. This time, he didn't even know where Wu Dao's original body had gone. Moreover, this time, there was most likely no one who could help Wu Dao's original body. Whether Wu Dao's original body could survive and return safely would depend on his own fate and fortune. When talking about Feng Cantian and the Heaven Baron sect, it was inevitable to talk about the situation in the demon domain. Lin Zhan muttered, because of the existence of the World Devastator Demon Emperor, the demon domain is probably not a good place. The Heaven Baron sect may not be able to gain a firm foothold in the demon domain in the future. Immortal King Ling Long also said, it is said that Emperor Bo Sun has also reappeared in this world. In the future, these two demon emperors will definitely compete in the demon domain. The Heaven Wasteland sect should find a way out to avoid being involved in the war between the two demon emperors. At the mention of Emperor Bo Sun and the World Devastation Demon Emperor, Su Zimo's heart jolted as he thought of a question that had been buried deep in his heart for a long time. He asked, legend has it that the World Devastation Demon Emperor was an Emperor Realm expert tens of millions of years ago. How did he survive until now? After all, the human emperor and fairy Linglong were both immortal kings. They were far more knowledgeable about the strength of the god monarchs than he was. Immortal King Linglong said, regardless of whether it's the great monarch or the monarch, the difference in lifespan isn't that great. Almost all of them have a lifespan of around 10 million years. In the records, only the longevity great monarch managed to live for 20 million years. Although the World Devastator Devil Emperor is powerful, it is impossible for him to have lived for tens of millions of years. After a short pause, Immortal King Linglong said, I'm more inclined to believe that the World Devastation Demon Emperor has already fallen tens of millions of years ago. However, in this life, he has used some kind of heaven-defying method to resurrect himself. Resurrection from the dead. Hearing these words, Su Zimo frowned slightly and fell into deep thought. He had a feeling that he seemed to have overlooked an extremely important piece of information. Immortal King Ling Long suddenly asked, Zimo, before you ascended, other than us, did you know any other experts from the upper world? Experts from the upper world? Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. If one were to say that before he ascended, other than the human emperor and his wife, only Dai Yu was left. I do know one. Su Zimo nodded and didn't hide anything. He said, however, she is not in the heaven realm, but in the great wasteland domain. Back then, when Senior Human Emperor came to the lower world, I even asked Senior Human Emperor about her, but I didn't find anything. Lin Zhan smiled and said, after all, I am only an immortal king from the Green Firmament Immortal Realm. I have only been to the Great Wasteland domain once, so I don't know much about it. There are many experts that I have never heard of. Back in the lower world, Su Zimo had asked the human emperor about Dai Yu's name. Later on, Dai Yu had told him that even in the upper world, there were no more than 5 people who knew that her name was Dai Yu. Dai Yu had also told him that if he were to ask someone else, he could ask Shui Dai from the Great Wasteland domain. At the thought of this, Su Zimo asked again, Senior Human Emperor, have you heard of Shui Dai from the Great Wasteland domain? Hearing this, not only the human emperor Lin Zhan, but even immortal King Ling Long's expression changed. Shui Dai? Lin Zhan's expression was solemn as he asked, Shui Dai Demon Empress. Should be, Su Zimo said. Before King Yunyo's clone died, he had begged Dai Yu for mercy and said something about Shui Dai, Empress. He must be talking about the Shui Dai Demon Empress. Immortal King Ling Long nodded and said, "There is only one Shui Dai from the Great Wasteland. She is very famous in the Great Wasteland domain, right?" Su Zimo probed. In fact, he could roughly guess it from the human emperor and immortal King Ling Long's reactions. Not only in the Great Wasteland domain. Human Emperor Lin Zhan shook his head slightly and said, "The Shui Dai Demon Empress is famous in the entire upper world. She is one of the most powerful imperial emperors. The experts in the upper world might not have heard of the imperial emperors of the various celestial domains, but they have definitely heard of the Shui Dai Demon Empress. I once heard from immortal Emperor Qing Shao that the Shui Dai Demon Empress is the closest to becoming a great emperor among the imperial emperors in the upper world. She is also the one who has the highest chance of becoming a great emperor. She is so powerful." Su Zimo was shocked and happy at the same time. He had long imagined that Dai Yu would be extraordinary in the upper world, but he did not expect her to be so powerful. Immortal King Ling Long said, "The Butterfly Clan is born weak. Even though the Emperor Butterfly Clan has appeared, they are still not comparable to the other powerful clans. However, the rise of the Shui Dai Demon Empress has completely changed the status of the Butterfly Clan in the upper world. Because of her, the other clans do not dare to underestimate the Butterfly Clan." Immortal King Ling Long's tone was full of admiration when she mentioned this. Her calm eyes were filled with ripples. Su Zimo's heart was stirred as well. He could almost see the figure in a blood-red robe in front of his eyes. She was invincible in the Tianhuang mainland and killed the entire sorcerer tribe with a single palm strike. She was peerless. He couldn't imagine how magnificent Dai Yu's past was. Immortal King Ling Long continued, "What's more, the Shui Dai Demon Empress is a woman. She is as talented as a man. I admire her very much. I only hope that I can reach 1/10 of her level in the future." Su Zimo burst out laughing. Judging from Immortal King Ling Long's reaction, she obviously saw Dai Yu as her role model and goal. Besides, Immortal King Ling Long had never seen Dai Yu before. Dai Yu's influence in the upper world was obvious. Su Zimo then told them about how Dai Yu had come to Tianhuang mainland with the help of the rare phenomenon of her bloodline, resolved the calamity of the sorcerer tribe, and left after mending the sky. It was the first time the human emperor and immortal King Ling Long had heard about this. They were even more shocked. Lin Zhan said, "When I came to the lower world by force, I realized that I might leave a huge threat to Tianhuang mainland. I didn't expect it to be her." Chapter 2632. Immortal King Ling Long said with a smile, "I didn't know there was such an expert behind you. It seems like the information came from the Blood Butterfly Demonic Monarch too." Su Zimo didn't quite understand what she was talking about. He instinctively asked, "What information?" Immortal King Ling Long said, "When you were ascending, the Cloud Underworld King tried to kill you. I was able to arrive in time because I received a piece of information in advance. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to deduce that you would encounter a calamity, let alone the time and place of the calamity." Su Zimo's expression changed, and he gradually narrowed his eyes. Immortal King Ling Long didn't notice it. She sighed softly and said, "Sigh, it's a pity that Brother Zhan was injured. Although I arrived in time, I was still a step too late and caused you to lose one of your true bodies. I don't know why the Blood Butterfly Demonic Monarch didn't appear personally. If she did, she would have crushed the Cloud Underworld King to death with just a finger." Lin Zhan shook his head and said, "I heard that the situation in the Great Desolation Domain is quite chaotic. The flames of war are endless, and there are a few demonic monarchs with terrifying strength. I don't know why, but even the Blood Butterfly Demonic Monarch was severely injured. The 12 demonic monarchs under her command suffered heavy casualties, and more than half of the territory under her rule was divided. In recent years, the Blood Butterfly Demonic Monarch returned with a strong momentum, but she hasn't completely recovered the lost territory. I guess she can't split herself up." The two of them were talking to themselves. Suddenly, they realized that Su Zimo was still silent and his expression was a little ugly. Lin Zhan thought that Su Zimo was worried about the situation in the Great Desolation Domain, so he comforted him, "Zimo, don't worry. With the blood butterfly demonic monarch's current strength, no one can hurt her." Su Zimo wasn't worried about Dai Yu. Just like the human emperor said, with Dai Yu's strength, he didn't need to worry at all. Moreover, he wasn't strong enough now. Even if he went to the Great Desolation Domain, he wouldn't be of much help. He was thinking about something else. Immortal King Ling Long had just told him that she was able to arrive in time because she received a piece of information. Immortal King Ling Long thought the information came from Dai Yu. However, based on Su Zimo's understanding of Dai Yu, this was definitely not Dai Yu's doing. Dai Yu was a proud woman who didn't want to owe anyone a favor. Why would she send a message to the human emperor and Immortal King Ling Long to ask them for help? If Dai Yu wanted to save him, there was no need for her to go in such a big circle. This wasn't Dai Yu's style. This style reminded Su Zimo of something else. When he killed Duke Yuanzhua in Juele City and searched his soul, he saw a scene in Duke Yuanzhua's memory. Originally, Commandery Prince Yuanzhua did not know where he was. It was because she had suddenly received a letter that she knew he was participating in the Immortal Sect's general election. Moreover, she was able to recognize him after he had changed his appearance. The styles of these two matters were too similar. That was the first thing Su Zimo thought of. At the same time, it also confirmed a speculation in his heart. However, this speculation was even more terrifying than he had imagined. Su Zimo had once thought that perhaps the moment he arrived in the divine firmament immortal realm, a pair of invisible hands had appeared behind him, manipulating his fate and guiding his every move. Now, Su Zimo suddenly realized that this pair of hands might have already started planning when he ascended. "Zimo, what's on your mind?" Immortal King Ling Long asked again when she saw Su Zimo's expression was not very good. Su Zimo said slowly, "Senior Ling Long, the information you received should not be from the Blood Butterfly Demon Monarch." "Not the Blood Butterfly Demon Monarch?" Immortal King Ling Long frowned slightly and asked, "Then who is it?" Su Zimo took a deep breath. He did not hide anything from the human emperor and Immortal King Ling Long, and told them everything that had happened in the divine firmament immortal realm. He told them how he had offended the Duke of Yuanzhua, participated in the Immortal Sect's selection, and finally joined the Qianquan Academy. After hearing this, Immortal King Ling Long's expression turned serious. She could clearly see the problem behind it. Lin Zhan found it hard to believe. He frowned and said, "Could it be that someone had already started planning when he ascended? What's his plan?" "The complete creation Qinglian." Immortal King Ling Long said slowly, "The creation Qinglian is the only one in the world. It's the most mysterious treasure with unimaginable potential. Since ancient times, it has been extremely difficult for the creation Qinglian to grow. In this life, the Qinglian and Su Zimo have merged into one. The conditions to grow are even stricter. Once Su Zimo is suppressed and imprisoned in advance, no matter what method is used, as long as Su Zimo is unwilling, he won't be able to mature to the 12th stage no matter what. The best way is to give Su Zimo enough opportunities and allow him to cultivate and grow on his own. When he grows to the 12th stage, we can finally take action and pluck him. Only then will we be able to obtain the greatest benefits." Immortal King Ling Long deduced many things from Su Zimo's description. And these things happened to coincide with Su Zimo's speculation. Su Zimo was still unwilling to believe it because this speculation would eventually lead to one person. The Patriarch of the Academy. If not for this speculation, the Qianquan Academy and the Patriarch of the Academy had saved Su Zimo's life before. During the Immortal Sect's selection, if it weren't for Yang Ruox's persistence and senior sister Mo Qing's timely appearance, he would have been killed by zither immortal Meng Yao. It was also because of the Qianquan Academy that he was able to temporarily escape the threat of the Great Jin Celestial Nation. Later on, when he obtained the first place on the Earth Board and returned to the Qianquan Academy, he suddenly encountered an inexplicable assassination attempt. At that time, it was the Patriarch of the Academy who personally took action and resolved it. Su Zimo was still unable to determine whether the target of that assassination attempt was him or someone else. But no matter what, the Patriarch of the Academy had indeed saved them. After that, he condensed the 10th step of the Tao Heart Ladder. The Patriarch of the Academy appeared and accepted him as an in-name disciple. He even gave him a teleportation talisman. It was also because of this teleportation talisman that he was able to bring Momo back to the Qianquan Academy from the chaotic battle in Langfeng City. Later on, he went to Juele City alone and burned it to the ground, killing many heaven immortals and even Duke Yuanzhua, which alarmed the immortal kings of the great Jin celestial nation. At that time, it was the Patriarch of the Academy who appeared and resolved the matter. After that incident, the Patriarch of the Academy had talked to him and did not hide that he already knew the secret of Qinglian. It was because of that conversation that Su Zimo's suspicion of the Patriarch of the Academy decreased greatly. If the Patriarch of the Academy was really concerned about his Qinglian true body, why would he be honest with him? Later on, at the Divine Firmament Immortal meeting, the Patriarch of the Academy had even sent a message to Immortal King Qingyang to resolve the doubts of the perfected immortals. The Patriarch of the Academy had done too much to him. The person that Su Zimo should not be suspicious of the most was the Patriarch of the Academy. Chapter 2633. However, all the clues pointed to the Patriarch of the Academy. Or rather, someone from the Qianquan Academy. During the Immortal Sect selection, Su Zimo's initial choice was not the Qianquan Academy, but the Mountain and Sea Immortal Sect. However, due to the appearance of Duke Yuanzhua and Zither Immortal Mengyao, there was a huge change in the Immortal Sect selection. In the end, it was Yang Ruoxu's persistence and senior sister Mo Qing's appearance that allowed him to enter the Qianquan Academy. The whole process was full of uncertainty and coincidences. If there was really such a person behind the scenes, it meant that this person had already deduced all the coincidences and predicted the final direction of the matter. What kind of intelligence was this? Moreover, after the Patriarch of the Academy talked to Su Zimo asked senior sister Mo Qing about her appearance. According to senior sister Mo Qing, it was because of the 8th elder of the Academy that she rushed to the Immortal Sect selection. Who was the 8th elder of the Academy? What was his role in all this? Could it be the Patriarch of the Academy? Su Zimo looked at Immortal King Ling Long and asked softly. Immortal King Ling Long remained silent. This matter was very important. After all, the Patriarch of the Academy was Su Zimo's master and had saved Su Zimo's life. She could not make wild guesses without evidence. I'm not sure if it's the Patriarch of the Academy. Immortal King Ling Long pondered and said, but the Patriarch of the Academy is able to calculate the heavenly secrets, fate, people's hearts, and karma. He does have the ability to set up such a trap. This trap was no small matter. It was not only targeting Su Zimo, but also Duke Yuanzhua, the Great Jin Immortal Nation, Yang Ruoxu, Zither Immortal Mengyao, Painting Immortal Mo Qing. There was even Immortal King Ling Long and Immortal King Yunyu. Since Su Zimo started cultivating, everyone he saw could be a chess piece in this trap. Immortal King Ling Long said, although I'm also good at deduction, I'm not as good as the Patriarch of the Academy when it comes to calculating the heavenly secrets and fate. At the very least, with my ability, I definitely cannot deduce the time and place of your ascension. Su Zimo nodded. The 9th step of the Qianquan Academy's Tao Heart Ladder was called the Step of Wisdom. It was condensed by the Academy Patriarch. He had felt the will of the Patriarch of the Academy when he had reached the 9th step. The impact on one's Tao heart was indeed extremely shocking. In the end, he was able to pass the 9th step and condense the 10th step of the Tao Heart Ladder because of the resonance between the two true bodies and the descent of Wu Dao's will. The Patriarch of the Academy was known to have a flawless plan, and it was not a lie. Immortal King Ling Long suddenly asked, I heard from Luo, that back in Langfeng City, you had unintentionally used the 9 palaces' subtle steps. Where have you seen this kind of footwork before? Back then, when Wu Dao's true body underwent the tribulation, there were several humanoid heavenly tribulations that descended. Among them, there was a black-robed woman who held a tortoise shell in one hand and a horsetail whisk in the other. Su Zimo did not know why Immortal King Ling Long suddenly mentioned this, but he still nodded and did not hide it. Immortal King Ling Long's eyes lit up after hearing Su Zimo's description. Su Zimo continued, "The black-robed woman's strength was terrifying. She had once used this mysterious footwork. It was extremely profound and left a deep impression on me. Later on, in Langfeng City, I had a sudden flash of inspiration and accidentally released it. As I thought." Immortal King Ling Long murmured softly. She then asked with a smile, "Do you know who the black-robed woman is?" "I don't." Su Zimo shook his head. Immortal King Ling Long said, "The era of the black-robed woman might be a few billion years ago, or even a few billion years ago. Regardless, she should be the oldest martial monarch in the records of the Upper Realm." Another martial monarch. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Previously, Demoness Ji had told him that the white-robed woman holding a longsword whom Wu Dao's main body had seen during his 10th tribulation was a martial monarch in the past. The 9 Netherworld Emperor. If the black-robed woman was also a martial monarch, it meant that the martial monarchs that Wu Dao's main body had seen during his tribulation were all martial monarchs who had once left traces of their Dao in the Upper Realm. Immortal King Ling Long added, "The black-robed woman you saw was the 9 Heavens mystic fairy emperor. She had once left behind a Dao inheritance in the Upper Realm. It was a forbidden secret scripture called the Art Repository. Forbidden secret scriptures were extremely rare. Only martial monarchs could leave behind a forbidden secret scripture. For example, although Bo Sun and the world-destroying demon monarch were powerful, their demon pursuit scriptures and world-destroying demon scriptures were only on par with forbidden secret scriptures at most. They had yet to reach the level of forbidden secret scriptures. The Art Repository is all-encompassing. Divination, geomancy, numerology, physiognomy, dream divination, fortune-telling, astrology, astronomical phenomena, talismans. There's nothing it doesn't cover. There are 3 chapters in the Art Repository. The first is Tai. The other 2 are Chimen Dun Jia and Luren Divine Lesson. Back then, the headmaster of the academy and I received this opportunity at the same time. We were chosen by the Dao of the 9 Heavens Xian New Empress and received different inheritances. The headmaster of the academy received the Art of Divination, while I received the Luren Divine Lesson. In terms of deducing the fate of the heavens and attacking techniques, the Chimen Duanjia is superior. The 9 Palace Subtle Steps is hidden in the Luren Divine Lesson. Hearing this, Su Zimo was enlightened. No wonder Immortal King Ling Long would suddenly mention this. It turned out that she had such a relationship with the Academy Patriarch. The reason why the Academy Patriarch was superior to her in divination was because he had received the Chimen Dun Jia from the Art Repository. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. He suddenly asked, "Senior, you said there are 3 chapters in the Art Repository. Who received the Tai inheritance?" According to Immortal King Ling Long, Tai was the first of the 3 chapters in the Art Repository. It should be even more mysterious. Immortal King Ling Long said, "The Tai Dao has a special origin. It wasn't passed down. Neither the Academy Patriarch nor I received it." After a slight pause, Immortal King Ling Long suddenly took out an ancient tortoise shell from her storage bag and handed it to Su Zimo. She said, "The tortoise shell you saw in the hands of the 9 Heavens Mystic Fairy Empress should look like this, right?" Su Zimo took a closer look and nodded. The size of the tortoise shell, and even the patterns on it, were exactly the same as the one he saw in the black-robed woman's hand. It seemed like the weapon of the 9 Heavens Mystic Fairy Emperor had been passed down and was obtained by Immortal King Ling Long. At this moment, a thought flashed across Su Zimo's mind. He recalled the other weapon of the 9 Heavens Mystic Fairy Emperor, the jade-handled horsetail whisk. The horsetail whisk was exactly the same as the Tai horsetail whisk he had. The Tai horsetail whisk had the word Tai. The Art Repository also had the chapter T. Was there a connection between the 2? Chapter 2634. Immortal Emperor Ling Long smiled and said, "If I'm not mistaken, the Tai horsetail whisk in the hands of the 9 Heavens Mystic Fairy Empress should be with you, right?" "That's right." Su Zimo did not hide the truth. He asked straightforwardly, "Senior, is there any connection between the Tai Horsetail Whisk and the Tai of the Art Repository?" Immortal Emperor Ling Long gave an affirmative answer before asking again, "Did you find any secret scriptures when you obtained the Tai Horsetail Whisk?" There is indeed a scripture called the Yin Yang Talisman Scripture. The two scriptures only have around 600 words in total. Su Zimo said, "However, the Yin Yang Talisman Scripture is full of strange runes. I can't understand a single word." To be precise, the Yin Yang Talisman Scripture was an inherited memory that Su Zimo obtained when he was sorting out the heavenly secrets on the 9th step of the Tao Heart Ladder. Su Zimo thought of a possibility. He could not help but ask, "Is the Yin Yang Talisman Scripture the Tai of the Art Repository?" Immortal Emperor Ling Long smiled and said, "Yes and no." Su Zimo was a little confused. Immortal Emperor Ling Long said, "The 9 Heavens Mystic Fairy Empress once obtained the creation Qinglian and nurtured it to the 12th grade. That's why she has the Tai Horsetail Whisk. Of course, she also obtained the Yin Yang Talisman Scripture." Immortal Emperor Ling Long's words revealed another piece of information. The creation Qinglian was extremely ancient. It already existed during the era of the 9 Heavens Mystic Fairy Empress. Immortal Emperor Ling Long added, "As a matter of fact, the last 2 scriptures of the Art Repository, the Qimen Duanjia and the Luren Divine Lesson, were actually created by the 9 Heavens Mystic Fairy Empress herself." Meanwhile, the Tai of the Art Repository is a Tao art that the 9 Heavens Mystic Fairy Empress comprehended through the Yin Yang Talisman Scripture. The scripture only reached the level of a forbidden scripture after incorporating Tai into the Art Repository. Su Zimo pondered for a moment before he asked probingly, "Senior, are you saying that the Yin Yang Talisman Scripture is even stronger than Tai?" "Of course." Immortal King Ling Long nodded and said, "Different people might gain different insights after reading the Yin Yang Talisman Scripture. According to what the 9 Heavens Xian Nu Empress said, although the Yin Yang Charm Scripture only has over 600 words, it contains all the mysteries of heaven and earth. Being able to comprehend a secret technique from it would bring endless benefits. Even the oldest recorded 9 Heavens Mystic Fairy Emperor had such a high evaluation of the Yin Yang Charm Scripture. Then what was the background of Qinglian, the creator of the Yin Yang Charm Scripture?" Su Zimo was secretly speechless. His mind was floating, and he was unable to accept such a huge piece of information. After a while, he gradually calmed down and took out a piece of white paper from his storage bag, preparing to write down the complete Yin Yang Charm Scripture. "What are you doing?" Su Zimo had just finished writing a few runes when Immortal King Ling Long hurriedly stopped him. Su Zimo said, "I don't recognize the strange runes on the Yin Yang Charm Scripture. I'm going to write them down. I hope you can give me some advice." Immortal King Ling Long said seriously, "You have to think carefully. Once you write down this secret technique, I will naturally see it." Su Zimo smiled and said, "Seniors, both of you have saved my life before. It's not a big deal to write this Yin Yang Talisman Scripture. It would be best if you could recomprehend the Tai chapter from this secret technique." In fact, when Su Zimo stood on the 9th step of the Taoist Heart Ladder in the Qianquan Academy, he realized that the patriarch of the academy should know this strange rune. But deep in his heart, he always had a trace of vigilance against the patriarch of the academy. Therefore, from the beginning to the end, he had never mentioned this to the patriarch of the academy, nor had he asked the patriarch of the academy about the strange runes on the Yin Yang Charm Scripture. But Su Zimo naturally did not have any doubts about the human emperor couple. "All right." Immortal King Ling Long nodded in agreement when she saw Su Zimo had made up his mind. She was slightly excited too. After all, this legendary scripture was of utmost importance to her. As Su Zimo had mentioned, if she could comprehend the Tai secret technique from it, it would greatly improve her strength. Book Bag Netsun. Su Zimo recorded all the strange runes of the Yin Yang Talisman Sutra on the piece of white paper based on his memory and handed it to Immortal King Ling Long and the human emperor. Lin Zhan waved his hand and said with a wry smile, "What kind of nonsense is this? It's too confusing. I can't understand it." It's indeed this kind of runes. Immortal King Ling Long murmured with a stern look. What kind of runes are these? Which race did they come from? Su Zimo asked. I'm not sure. Immortal King Ling Long shook her head and said, It was my first time seeing these runes when I was receiving the succession of the 9 Heavens Empress. These runes don't look like the runes of a certain race. They look more like the runes of an ancient civilization or even, Immortal King Ling Long suddenly paused before she said slowly, it might even be from the Great Thousand World. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. He did not know much about the Great Thousand World. If Immortal King Ling Long's speculation was true, the Yin-Yang charm scripture had a great background. Immortal King Ling Long quickly converted the strange runes of the secret technique into modern runes with the help of the succession of the 9 Heavens Empress. Su Zimo read the runes one by one. Observing the Tao of the heavens and carrying out the heavens is all there is to it. There are 5 thieves in the heavens, those who see them prosper. The 5 thieves are in the heart, and they are executed by the heavens. The universe is in the hand, and all transformations are in the body. Every sentence seemed to contain the secrets of the heavens and earth and the principles of the great Tao. However, Su Zimo could not figure out anything in a short time. The Yin-Yang charm scripture only had around 600 words. He quickly skimmed through it. Suddenly, Su Zimo's expression changed as he saw a paragraph in the Yin-Yang charm scripture. He subconsciously read it out. When the heavens emit killing intent, the stars move. When the earth emits killing intent, dragons and snakes rise. When the man emits killing intent, the heavens and earth are turned upside down. This, Su Zimo was shocked. He was too familiar with these 3 paragraphs. These 3 sentences were the profundities of the 3 great sword arts. Su Zimo suddenly asked, Senior, have you heard of someone from the sword realm who obtained the creation Qinglian? Yes, there is. Immortal King Ling Long nodded and said, It's said that this person nurtured the creation Qinglian to the 11th grade. This person is most famous for creating the 3 great sword arts and comprehending the supreme divine skills, which made him famous in the 3,000 worlds. Su Zimo nodded. There was no mistake. In other words, this expert from the sword world had once obtained the Yin-Yang talisman scripture and comprehended the 3 great sword techniques from this secret scripture. No wonder Immortal King Ling Long said that different people would comprehend different arts after reading the Yin-Yang charm scripture. Chapter 2635. This secret scripture. Human Emperor Lin Zhan looked at the white paper. Immortal King Ling Long had already translated more than 600 words. His expression was solemn, and a hint of shock flashed across his eyes. Su Zimo was now a stage 9 heaven immortal. With his current cultivation level, even if he saw the Yin-Yang talisman scripture, it would be difficult for him to comprehend anything from it. However, the human emperor was different. He had already condensed a grotto heaven and become an immortal king. With the human emperor's talent and the knowledge and eyesight of an immortal king, he could see many mysteries from these 600 words. Although there are only 600 words, every word contains the truth of the great Tao. The more you study it, the more you can feel the essence of it. Lin Zhan looked at Immortal King Ling Long and sighed. No wonder you said that this Yin-Yang talisman scripture doesn't seem to be something from the upper world. Instead, it might come from the greater world. I'm afraid that only the legendary greater world can give birth to such an exquisite Tao technique. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat, and he asked, Senior Human Emperor, when you forcefully descended to the lower world back then, you were created by the laws of heaven and earth. Will this Yin-Yang talisman scripture be of any help to your injuries? I'm afraid it's not just a help. Lin Zhan said in a deep voice. If I can comprehend something from it, not only will my injuries be healed, but it will also be an unimaginable opportunity for me. That's great, Su Zimo said with a smile. Immortal King Ling Long was also delighted. In fact, this Yin-Yang talisman scripture was more helpful to the human emperor's injuries than the 9 revolutions soul return pill and the worryless fruit. The human emperor's injuries were caused by the laws of heaven and earth. Only by comprehending the mysteries of the laws of heaven and earth could one's primordial spirit be healed. Actually, there's another reason why I speculate that the yin-yang talisman scripture came from the greater world. Immortal King Ling Long looked at Su Zimo and said, because, according to the inheritance information that the Academy Patriarch and I obtained back then, we can roughly deduce that Qinglian, who gave birth to the yin-yang talisman scripture, most likely came from the greater world. This conjecture coincided with Su Zimo's earlier thoughts. Immortal King Ling Long continued, many people in the upper world have heard of creation Qinglian, the one and only existence in the world. But in reality, almost no one knows the true origins of creation Qinglian. Immortal King Ling Long knew this because she had received the inheritance of the Nine Heavens Xian Envy Empress. Xian Envy Empress of the Nine Heavens had once obtained Qinglian and nurtured it to maturity. But the Nine Heavens Mystic Fairy Empress was too far away. Apart from Immortal King Ling Long, who had received her legacy, the rest of the people knew nothing about the Nine Heavens Mystic Fairy Empress past. Qinglian of creation is extremely difficult to cultivate. As far as I know, only the Ninth Heaven Xian Envy Empress has managed to cultivate it to the 12th grade. Immortal King Ling Long continued, therefore, almost everyone in the upper world underestimated Qinglian of creation. They only thought that it was a mutated spirit plant from the upper world. There were many mutated spirit plants in the upper world, such as the Black Frost Plum Tree of the Divine Firmament Immortal Realm, the Immortal Peach Tree of the Jade Firmament Immortal Realm, the Immortal Willow of the Green Firmament Immortal Realm, and so on. Including the Divine Tree of Creation in the center of the Heaven Realm, they all belonged to the category of mutated spirit plants. Thinking of this, although Qinglian of creation was rare, it was still within the scope of everyone's understanding. Lin Zhan also nodded and said, if someone knew that Qinglian of creation came from the great wide world, I'm afraid the person who attacked you wouldn't be King Yunyu. At that time, all the great celestial emperors might be tempted. Su Zimo nodded. He knew in his heart that the human emperor was not exaggerating at all. Not to mention Qinglian of creation, even if this yin-yang talisman scripture was released, it would probably attract countless great celestial emperors to kill and snatch it. In fact, over the years of cultivation as Qinglian's true body continued to grow, Su Zimo had gradually discovered the various phenomena of Qinglian's true body. The few powerful treasures that were derived from it were only one of them. Even in terms of bloodline, Qinglian of creation suppressed all living beings. Back at the bottom of the Blood Fiend Lake in the Shura battlefield, Qinglian's true body could even devour the bones of the holy beast, White Tiger. Facing a god like the divine tree of creation that had lived for countless years, Qinglian's true body had no intention of bowing down. She could even forcefully seize the vitality and power of the divine tree of creation. In fact, back when he was in Tianhuang mainland, Daiyu had told him that the potential of Qinglian's true body might surpass that of the dragon phoenix's true body. It was only in these years that Su Zimo was truly certain. If they were at the same cultivation realm, the current Qinglian's true body could suppress the dragon phoenix's true body. Be it in terms of essence spirit, bloodline, physique or many divine powers and secret skills, Qinglian's true body had already surpassed the dragon phoenix's true body. But now, Qinglian's true body had yet to grow to its peak. Immortal King Ling Long said, although the taboo dragon phoenix is strong and is considered a top race, it's extremely rare. However, it's not the only one. Back when you ascended, you encountered a calamity and your dragon phoenix's true body was destroyed. Actually, it wasn't a huge loss for you. Everyone thinks that the foundation of Qinglian of creation lies in Qinglian. However, in reality, the true strength of Qinglian of creation lies in the word, creation. What is creation? Su Zimo murmured softly. The word, creation, is the most mysterious and mysterious. Immortal King Ling Long said, Qinglian of creation seizes the creation of heaven and earth. The opportunities and fortuitous encounters you obtained may seem coincidental, but they are actually all within creation. Ever since you ascended, you have been able to cultivate to this level within 10,000 years. You must have obtained countless opportunities. These are all your good fortune. Although your dragon phoenix's true body was destroyed, your Qinglian's true body can perfectly inherit the many divine powers and secret skills of the dragon phoenix's true body. In other words, even the dragon phoenix's true body has become one of your creations. It has become a part of Qinglian's true body. This was the terror of Qinglian of creation. She could even perfectly inherit everything of the dragon phoenix's true body and turn it into her own creations. Lin Zhan also nodded and said, I see that you have the legacies of the immortal, Buddhist, and fiend Tao. There are even legacies of many demons. There are so many completely different, even opposing, incompatible Tao techniques. I'm afraid only Qinglian of creation can gather them in one body and live in harmony. Su Zimo was enlightened. Even an expert like Emperor Bo Sun, who had a single body of fiend and Buddhist cultivation, went wrong. Right now, he had the Pure Jade Manual for the Immortal Tao, the Prajna Nirvana Sutra for the Buddhist Tao, and the Heaven Burial Sutra for the fiend Tao. All of them were forbidden mystic manuals. The Demon Tao had the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness, top-tier cultivation techniques such as the Void Thunder Manual and the divine powers and secret skills of the 4 sacred beasts. If it was any other living being, be it their physical body or essence spirit, they would have exploded long ago when all these Tao techniques were mixed together. Only Qinglian's true body could cultivate normally after turning all the Tao techniques into her creations. Chapter 2636. Su Zimo gradually digested the information about Qinglian. After a moment of silence, Su Zimo asked, with my current cultivation, if I can condense a Tao fruit and step into the true One realm, Qinglian's true body should be able to grow to the peak of the 12th stage. But if it's at the peak of the 12th stage, how will Qinglian's true body grow in the Grotto Heaven realm and the Arch realm? Immortal King Ling Long smiled and said, you don't have to worry about this. As for Qinglian, its origin, how much potential it has, and how many secrets it has, I'm afraid no one in the upper world can say for sure. But even if Qinglian is only at the 12th stage, it's fine. A 12th stage Qinglian is a mature state. As for how it grows in the future, it will all depend on your cultivation. Just like a child, it will only be considered an adult when it reaches the age of 10. However, it doesn't mean that the child's power will stop there. The 12th stage of Qinglian's maturity is only the starting point of its cultivation. As for what level it will reach in the future, you can only verify it yourself. Su Zimo was enlightened. If Qinglian really came from the Great Thousand World, no one would be able to say for sure. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. He suddenly asked, Seniors, how much do you know about the Great Thousand World? Over the years, have any living beings from the upper world ascended there? Lin Zhan and Immortal King Ling Long looked at each other and shook their heads. Immortal King Ling Long pondered for a while and said, the Great Thousand World should exist, but almost all traces of it in the history books have been erased, so it has never been confirmed. We don't know if anyone can ascend to the Great Thousand World. The human emperor and Immortal King Ling Long had ascended to the Grotto Heaven realm for hundreds of thousands of years. However, with their knowledge, they didn't know much about the Great Thousand World. Lin Zhan said, since the Arch realm has a lifespan of tens of millions of years, I believe that the Arch realm is not the end of cultivation. Perhaps the chance to live forever is in the Great Thousand World. Su Zimo nodded thoughtfully. Su Zimo learned a lot from this conversation with the human emperor and Immortal King Ling Long. Not only did he obtain a lot of information about Qinglian, but he also confirmed some of his previous speculations. Most importantly, with Immortal Emperor Ling Long's reminder, he would be more careful and prepare himself for the worst outcome. According to Immortal King Ling Long, she and the Patriarch of the Academy had both received the inheritance of the 9 Heavens Xian Envy Empress. Since Immortal King Ling Long knew about the Yin-Yang Talisman scripture, it meant that the Patriarch of the Academy should also know about it. In other words, the Patriarch of the Academy might have a greater motive to attack him than the King of Yunyu. That was because King Yunyu only saw him as a mutated spirit plant, a rare medicinal herb. The Patriarch of the Academy might regard him as the most precious treasure in the upper world. That was also the reason why the secluded Cloud King tried to kill him the moment he ascended. He was planning to capture him and refine him into a pill. On the other hand, the Patriarch of the Academy had painstakingly set up a trap. He even came out personally to protect him so that he could grow up smoothly. That was because the higher the grade of the creation Qinglian, the more help it would be to the Patriarch of the Academy. The Yin-Yang Talisman scripture was also derived from the 11th grade creation Qinglian. Of course, the premise of all this was that the person who set up this trap was indeed the Patriarch of the Academy. The Patriarch of the Academy was the most suspicious. However, Su Zimo was still unable to confirm it at the moment. That was because there were still a few things that could not be explained. Firstly, the person who tried to kill him with the King of Yunyu was not the Patriarch of the Academy. Even immortal King Ling Long had never seen this person before. Since the creation Qinglian was so important, the fewer people who knew about it, the better. If it was really the Patriarch of the Academy who set up this trap, there was no need for him to send others. Back then, Su Zimo had thought that he was just lucky. Before he was swallowed by the starry sky black hole, the prison suppressing cauldron had just swallowed a grotto spiritual treasure. Now it seemed that the grotto spiritual treasure had been deliberately fed to the prison suppressing cauldron by this person. Secondly, there were too many coincidences in the immortal sex selection. There were no traces of the Patriarch of the Academy behind it. Although the appearance of the painting fairy, Mo Qing, was a bit sudden, it was because she had received news from the 8th elder of the Academy. Thirdly, the Patriarch of the Academy did not hide that he knew about the creation Qinglian. His actions were a bit suspicious of beating the grass and alerting the snake. Fourthly, if the Patriarch of the Academy attached so much importance to the creation Qinglian, why had he never restricted his actions? For example, he would definitely meet immortal King Ling Long at the Continent of the Nine Clouds meeting. Once they met, he would suspect the Patriarch of the Academy. Since the Patriarch of the Academy knew about his relationship with immortal King Ling Long and the others, the best way was to find a random reason to not let him participate in the Continent of the Nine Clouds meeting to avoid meeting immortal King Ling Long and the others. The Patriarch of the Academy had never restricted his freedom. Wasn't he afraid that he would condense his Dao fruit elsewhere, step into the true self realm, and leave the Qianquan Academy forever? There were many things that could not be explained. If this was not the doing of the Patriarch of the Academy, he might encounter greater danger if he left the Qianquan Academy. Even if it was really the doing of the Patriarch of the Academy, he couldn't just leave. There were a few people in the Qianquan Academy who were close to him. Yang Ruoxu, Princess Qi Hong, Lu Ping, and senior sister Mo Qing. Moreover, Momo was still in the Qianquan Academy. This matter was not easy to deal with. Immortal King Ling Long said, "Why don't you cultivate here? I can set up an immortal formation for you to block your aura. When you break through, you won't attract any attention." Su Zimo nodded and said, "I'll stay here for a few days. If I can sense the opportunity to break through, I'll break through here." If the human Emperor Lin Zhan recovered from his injuries, he would naturally be able to protect Su Zimo. But now, the human Emperor's injuries had yet to recover. Even with the Yin-Yang Talisman scripture, it would be difficult for him to gain anything in a short period of time. If Su Zimo stayed with the human emperor for too long, he would definitely arouse the vigilance of the person behind the scenes. At that time, he would very likely bring disaster to the war country. The war country was currently facing internal and external troubles. It could not withstand such an impact. Su Zimo sighed in his heart. If Wu Dao's original body was still in the demon domain, he could go to the Heaven Baron sect in the demon domain to transcend the tribulation. Even if an immortal king expert came, Wu Dao's original body could suppress him. Even if he was no match for him, Wu Dao's original body could protect Qinglian's true body and push her into the Avicii hell. But now, Wu Dao's original body had fallen into the abyss of the Avicii hell. He had completely lost contact with him, and his fate was unknown. The surroundings were dark. Wu Dao's original body felt that his body was falling uncontrollably. Whether it was his eyes or his divine sense, he could not detect anything. This feeling was as if he was passing through some kind of space tunnel, but the dizziness and tearing feeling was even more intense, and the time was even longer. Fortunately, he did not suffer any injuries during this process. After an unknown period of time, Wu Dao's body suddenly became light and he finally regained control. Chapter 2637. Wu Dao's true body controlled his body and stood in the air, looking around. At the same time, he spread out his spirit consciousness to check out the movements around him. The surrounding environment was dark and gloomy. There were no sun, moon, or stars above his head. The few light sources came from all sorts of strange plants. Some of the tall trees were pitch black with luxuriant leaves. However, most of the leaves were as black as ink. Only a few leaves emitted a faint glow from time to time. In the dark environment, they flickered and looked rather creepy. In the distant darkness, a large shadow appeared faintly. It was motionless, as if there were many gigantic ancient beasts hidden in the depths of the darkness. In the quiet and dark environment, it was especially eerie. On the ground not far away, there were fist-sized green flames that looked like the wisps floating. Wu Dao's true body focused and squinted his eyes instinctively. Below the wisps, there were scattered white bones with many traces of slashing and biting left on them. It was clear how tragic the battle was here back then. Wu Dao's true body sensed it slightly. Although there was some heaven and earth essence qi in the surroundings, it was obviously much thinner than the heavenly realm. Of course, it was far better than the Dragon Abyss planet. However, there was a dark and sinister energy mixed in this heaven and earth essence qi that was different from the heaven and earth essence qi in the heavenly realm. Wu Dao's true body felt as though he had arrived in an unfamiliar world. This world was not only incompatible with the heavenly realm's environment, it was also completely different from the atmosphere of the entire upper realm. As far as the eye could see, even the vegetation here was something that the martial arts deity had never seen before in the upper realm. Everything was strange and strange. Where is this? Wu Dao's true body frowned slightly. He sensed it carefully and realized that he had completely lost contact with Qinglian's true body. Under normal circumstances, he could maintain a connection with Qinglian's true body even if he was in the hell of Avicii with the prison's suppressing cauldron. However, after falling here, he was completely cut off from the outside world. Wu Dao's true body channeled the power of his grotto heaven and punched out casually. The surrounding void trembled and a crack appeared, revealing the space tunnel inside. Wu Dao's true body flashed inside. Not long after, another part of the void split open, and Wu Dao's main body walked out of the space tunnel, frowning inwardly. Something was wrong. Although he could tear the void apart at any time and perform spatial teleportation, he was still unable to return to the Avicii Great Hell, let alone the Heaven Realm. There seemed to be an unbreakable barrier between him and the Avicii Great Hell. How could this be? Wu Dao's main body pondered as his eyes scanned the surroundings. He had just teleported and arrived near the tall shadow that he had seen at the beginning. It was only when they got closer that they could clearly see that these towering and majestic shadows hidden in the darkness were large stretches of undulating mountains and precipitous ridges that stretched as far as the eye could see. Wu Dao's main body originally didn't think too much about it, but his gaze inadvertently swept over the nearest mountain peak, and his pupils couldn't help but shrink. There were corpses everywhere on the mountain. There were all kinds of living beings, not only humans, but also other races. Corpses covered the entire mountain. This was no ordinary mountain peak before him. It was a mountain of corpses and pools of blood. Wu Dao's main body released his spirit consciousness and extended it outwards continuously. Corpses were strewn all over the endless mountains and white bones were piled up beneath the precipitous ridges. In fact, some of the living beings had just died not long ago and their flesh had yet to rot. The scary thing was that Wu Dao's main body's spirit consciousness covered an area of 5,000 kilometers and was in such a tragic state. This was a mountain of corpses and bones. Right then, Wu Dao's main body sensed more than 100 cultivators speeding towards him. The group of cultivators were not surprised by the mountain of corpses and bones around them. It was as though they were used to it and looked like they were locals. There's movement over there. Let's go take a look. We've just taken down Soul-Crying Ridge and don't let other factions take advantage of us. Sigh, the Dark Chi is exhausted and resources are scarce. It's getting harder to cultivate now. I wonder if I'll have the chance to become a prison general in this lifetime with my own territory and command tens of thousands of prison guards with countless beauties. Prison general? Don't count on it. We're destined to be prison guards for the rest of our lives. Killing is so frequent in the North Ridge. It's good enough if we're lucky enough to live for a few more years. Even if we cultivate to become a prison general, we might not be able to live for long. Didn't our territorial lord of Soul-Crying Ridge get killed by our territorial lord? Wu Dao's main body frowned slightly when he heard the conversation. Dark Chi? Prison guards? Prison generals? Soul-Crying Ridge? North Ridge? Soul-Crying Ridge and North Ridge should be the same place. However, what were the Dark Chi, prison guards and prison generals that these cultivators were talking about? Ever since he ascended to the upper realm, Wu Dao's main body had spent most of his time in seclusion cultivating. However, he had browsed through too many cultivation techniques and secret skills of the upper realm. In the Avicii Hell alone, there were countless inheritances from 3,000 realms. In those inheritances, there had never been any mention of Dark Chi or prison guards. Through the senses of Wu Dao's main body, the cultivation realms of the 100 cultivators varied. The lower ones were probably mystic immortals while the higher ones were heaven immortals. The cultivator in the lead should be a rank 9 heaven immortal. Furthermore, Wu Dao's main body noticed that although these cultivators were in the form of humans, there were some slight differences. The pupils of these cultivators were brown. Perhaps due to the lack of light, their skin was pale and lacked a lot of color. These cultivators also exuded a sinister and cold aura that was extremely similar to the surrounding environment. Wu Dao's main body had never seen such an aura in the upper realm. He knew nothing about this place and was about to ask someone about it. At that thought, Wu Dao's main body walked towards this group of people. Commander Cui, how many underworld stones will we get after the territorial lord takes down Soul-Crying Ridge? A cultivator in the crowd asked with a smile. Don't worry, you won't be left out. Commander Cui said indifferently. Leader looked. Someone's coming over. Right then, a few cultivators pointed at a purple-robed man who was walking in the air and reminded him. What's that person's cultivation realm? Why can't I detect it? He's even wearing a mask to hide himself. Leader, why do I feel like that person exudes the aura of a living person? He doesn't seem like someone from North Ridge. He looks like a fat sheep. He might have a lot of underworld stones on him. A few cultivators discussed softly. Commander Cui looked at the purple-robed man not far away and narrowed his eyes, sending a voice transmission. Wait for my instructions later. I'll check him out first. If he's a living person, we'll kill him first. If there are any underworld stones, we brothers will split them first. Understood. The cultivators behind him quickly replied and licked their lips. Their eyes glowed with excitement. Chapter 2638. Hey, where did you come from? Commander Cui glared at the purple-robed cultivator not far away and asked loudly. Where is this? Wearing a cold silver mask, the purple-robed cultivator asked in a deep voice instead of answering. This is Soul-Sobbing Ridge. Commander Cui replied. Where is Soul-Sobbing Ridge? The purple-robed cultivator continued asking. Commander Cui replied, Soul-Sobbing Ridge is a mountain ridge in the North Ridge. There are hundreds of thousands of mountain ridges in the North Ridge and Soul-Sobbing Ridge is merely one of the most inconspicuous ones. For some reason, the purple-robed cultivator seemed to be emitting an invisible might. Each time the purple-robed cultivator asked a question, Commander Cui would answer instinctively, as though he could not control himself. A commotion broke out from the crowd behind him. Startled, Commander Cui reacted quickly and his expression darkened. He glared at the purple-robed cultivator not far away and hollered, I'm asking you a question. Answer me honestly and don't change the topic. I'll ask you again. Where are you from? The purple-robed cultivator remained silent for a moment before replying, Heaven Realm. Heaven Realm? Commander Chui and the 100-odd cultivators behind him were clearly stunned. But soon, Commander Chui and the others looked at each other and burst into laughter. Haha, this person said that he's from the heaven realm? He's so dumb that he can't even lie. Commander Chui, let's not waste our breath on him. I think he's just toying with us. Let's kill him first. Let's see what treasures he has in his storage bag. One of the cultivators could not help but urge. Let me give you guys a piece of advice. Don't court death. Suddenly, the purple-robed cultivator spoke with a calm tone. Wu Dao's main body had just arrived here and did not know anything about this place. He did not want to kill the cultivators here, and that was the reason why he reminded them. However, if these people wanted to court death, he would not show mercy either. Bloody hell, how dare you threaten us? A grade 8 Earth Immortal cultivator could not hold it in any longer and laughed sinisterly. Let me see what you've got first. The moment that cultivator made his move, the remaining 100-odd cultivators attacked as well. In an instant, many magical treasures and weapons flew through the air. Another half of the cultivators rushed toward Wu Dao's original body with sharp blades in their hands. They wanted to fight him in close combat. Behind the silver mask, Wu Dao's eyes suddenly became even more profound. He gently raised his hand. The 100-odd cultivators on the other side, including Commander Chui, froze on the spot, unable to move at all. Even the magical equipment that was charging at Wu Dao's real body was suspended in midair, as if they had been fixed to the spot by an invisible force. Many cultivators widened their eyes in shock. What is this? Body-fixing technique? Commander Chui's face was still filled with shock. What kind of body immobilization technique was able to immobilize him in place? Could it be a supreme divine ability? Could this person be a prison general? Their lord was a warden, but even the lord couldn't do this. All he did was raise his hand, and they couldn't even move. While the cultivators were lost in their thoughts, Wu Dao gently waved his hand. That action was as though he was swatting away a few noisy mosquitoes. In midair, the Dharma treasures and weapons seemed to be affected by some sort of power and flew back at an even faster speed, entering the bodies of the cultivators. The bodies of the cultivators exploded one after another, bursting with blood mists. The landing points of the Dharma treasures and weapons were extremely precise and pierced the glabellas of the cultivators, causing their essence spirits to be destroyed, and they died on the spot. In the blink of an eye, Commander Chui was the only one left of the 100-odd cultivators. Commander Chui's face was frightfully pale and his body was stiff, shivering in fear. He could not understand how he managed to survive. Wu Dao's real body did not say anything more to him. Arriving close, he captured Commander Chui's essence spirit and used his soul-searching technique. Since you guys won't tell me, I'll take a look myself. A moment later, the soul-searching technique ended. Commander Chui's essence spirit turned dim and his aura was weak. He was on the verge of death. Thereafter, Wu Dao's real body tossed the essence spirit away in deep thought. Just as he had guessed, he had already arrived at an alternate world that was completely different from the upper world. The cultivation resources here were different from the upper world. The living beings of the upper world cultivated by absorbing heaven and earth essence chi. Apart from their surroundings, they could also absorb heaven and earth essence chi through elixirs, essence spirit stones, and other cultivation resources. In this foreign world, although there was also heaven-earth yuan chi, there was another type of energy mixed within the heaven-earth yuan chi. That energy was the dark and cold aura that Wu Dao's real body had sensed. That aura was mixed within heaven and earth essence chi and was known as netherworld chi by the living beings of this alternate world. The cultivation resource that the cultivators needed was the netherworld stone. As for the prison guards and prison generals that the cultivators mentioned, they were the cultivation realms of this alternate world. In this alternate world, be it heaven essence, earth essence, or heaven essence cultivators, they were all at the bottom of the hierarchy and were collectively known as prison guards. Only by condensing netherworld crystals could one become a prison general. The so-called netherworld crystals actually corresponded to the Tao fruits of the upper world. In other words, a prison general's cultivation realm was equivalent to the true first realm, corresponding to the true immortals, true demons, and arhats of the upper world. Above the prison general was the legendary prison king, corresponding to the Grotto Heaven realm powerhouses of the upper world. This Commander Chui's cultivation realm was limited. Although he was at Heaven Essence Stage 9, he was only a prison guard and was at the bottom of this alternate world. There was not much information about this alternate world. Commander Chui only knew that he belonged to the Weeping Soul Ridge. And the Weeping Soul Ridge was one of the 100,000 mountain ridges. Even so, in Commander Chui's memory, the Weeping Soul Ridge's territory was more than 1,000,000 miles and the living beings in its territory numbered in the hundreds of millions. When Wu Dao's real body saw this information, he was shocked. It was just one of the most inconspicuous mountain ridges in the 100,000 mountain ridges, but it was more than 1,000,000 miles and ruled over hundreds of millions of living beings. What kind of scenery would the other, even more vast mountain ridges be like? According to Commander Chui's memory, the 100,000 mountain ridges were collectively known as the North Ridge. And the owner of the North Ridge was known as the King of the North Ridge, ruling over the entire North Ridge. What made Wu Dao's real body feel regretful was that after searching through all of Commander Chui's memories, he could not find any specific information about this alternate world. What Commander Chui knew was that the North Ridge was the most he knew. If he wanted to know more, he might have to find a cultivator at the level of a prison general. Prison guard, prison general, Wu Dao's real body murmured softly, and a light flashed through his mind. Could it be that I've come to hell? This thought flashed through the mind of Wu Dao's real body, and his heart trembled. Thinking back to the dark and gloomy environment around him, thinking about the mountains of corpses and bones around him, thinking about the strange titles and the completely different cultivation civilization, Wu Dao's real body felt that this was more and more likely. Chapter 2639. There were very few records of hell in the upper world, and there were only many legends such as the netherworld, and hell. However, no one had seen what hell was like. The heavenly wolf had once said that it was impossible for living beings to enter the underworld. Only after the death of living beings, their remaining souls could enter the netherworld. There was a difference of a single word between the netherworld and hell. Were the two of them the same world? Although he obtained a lot of information from searching Commander Chui's soul, there were still too many unknowns for Wu Dao's true body in this foreign world. However, from Commander Chui's memories, Wu Dao's true body found the center of Soul Crying Ridge. The territorial lord of Soul Crying Ridge was a hell general with a cultivation realm equivalent to a perfected immortal in the heavenly realm. As such, his understanding of this foreign world was definitely more detailed. Wu Dao's true body tore through the void and teleported directly. Although Soul Crying Ridge was only one of the 100,000 mountain ridges, it occupied an extremely vast area with hundreds of millions of living beings within it that were all under the control of a single territorial lord. Before long, Wu Dao's true body arrived in the depths of Soul Crying Ridge and stood in the air in the core region. Roar! The moment Wu Dao's true body appeared, the roar of ferocious beasts could be heard from the nearby forest. Numerous flying beasts soared into the sky, continuously crying out warnings in midair. Who's there? A loud roar sounded from the forest. The pitch-black ancient trees swayed. Countless creatures were gathering in this place from all directions of the mountain forest. Among those living beings, there were not only human cultivators, but also all sorts of races. Some of the living beings had human faces but a pair of gigantic bone wings on their backs. Some of the living beings were tall and were dozens of feet tall. Their upper bodies were bare and their auras were domineering. They resembled the barbarians of Tianhuang mainland. There were also living beings with human faces and beast bodies with gigantic wings on their backs. They seemed like rare ferocious beasts. Endless creatures surged with killing intent, stepping on countless corpses. They were like a black tide, quickly passing through the mountain forest, charging over murderously. Where's your territorial lord? Against the many living beings that were surging over from all directions, Wu Dao's true body asked with a calm expression. You think you can meet our Grand Lord? The one who spoke was a Xenogeniac. He had the body of a human, but his face had no facial features. His mouth was on his chest, and his fangs were sharp. His eyes were on his palms, and he was looking at Wu Dao's true self with a mysterious gaze. This xenogenic creature was not weak. It was probably a prison general. However, according to the realm classification of this foreign realm, this strange creature could only be considered a beginner hell general, which was equivalent to a true immortal in the consolidation stage. You want to seize the Crying Soul Ridge by yourself? Another prison general questioned loudly. Wu Dao's main body frowned slightly as he looked at the formation of these living beings. He had just arrived, so he didn't want to be too ostentatious. But looking at the other party's posture, it seemed that if he said anything wrong, they would swarm him and tear him to pieces. Wu Dao's main body slowly said, "I came from the heavenly realm. I don't want to fight over the Weeping Soul Ridge. I want to find your lord and understand some information about this place." Heaven realm? The living beings of the Crying Soul Ridge were stunned for a moment, but soon they sneered. "Since you say you're from the heavenly realm, don't blame us for eating you." Saliva dripped from the bloody mouth on the chest of the xenogenic creature. Sharp claws gradually stretched out from his 5 fingers. "Kill!" A roar suddenly erupted from the crowd. The next moment, the living beings of the Crying Soul Ridge swarmed forward. Wu Dao's main body's expression turned cold. He didn't understand why these living beings of the Crying Soul Ridge were so hostile to the people of the heavenly realm. But since these living beings were courting death, there was no need for him to hold back. Wu Dao's main body explained to these living beings once. He was already patient enough to give them a chance. "Die!" Wu Dao's main body suddenly shouted and erupted with a sound domain's secret technique. He didn't even use the sound of all spirits for this sound domain's secret technique. This was just the simplest roar. It purely relied on his physical body, bloodline, and powerful lungs to erupt with a sound domain attack. Even so, the living beings of the Crying Soul Ridge could no longer withstand it. Everywhere he looked, inside and outside the forest, the bodies of many living beings exploded. Broken limbs flew everywhere, blood mist filled the air, and the smell of blood soared to the sky. The impact of this sound domain even caused the entire mountain range to shake violently. Countless mountain peaks shattered and collapsed, and many gravel rolled down. In an instant, more than half of the living beings in the surrounding area were killed by Wu Dao's main body. Not only that, Wu Dao's main body roared, and a huge earthquake occurred in the mountain range of millions of miles around the Crying Soul Ridge. This was the power of Wu Dao's main body. Originally, there were still shouts of killing in the surroundings. However, after Wu Dao body's roar, the clamor of all the living beings disappeared in an instant. All that was left was the sound of many mountains collapsing, rubble rolling down, and the loud noises of landslides. As far as the eye could see, the mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. It was a scene of doomsday. Around Wu Dao's main body, there were a few living beings left standing on the spot. They were so scared that their faces were drained of blood and their souls were almost scattered. Those few living beings were all prison generals. It was not that their cultivation was sufficient to withstand the impact of the sound domain of Wu Dao's main body. It was because Wu Dao's main body wanted them to stay. Wu Dao's main body did not explain either. He reached out and grabbed, capturing the essence spirits of those few living beings as he prepared to use a soul-searching technique. Right then, Wu Dao's main body's heart skipped a beat. In the depths of the Crying Soul Ridge, behind a cloud of dust, a figure was fleeing rapidly into the distance. The aura of that person was far stronger than the few prison generals he had captured. If he was not wrong, the person who was escaping should be the territorial lord of the Crying Soul Ridge. Wu Dao's main body moved and chased after him. The territorial lord of the Crying Soul Ridge had not escaped far. When he turned back, his expression changed starkly. The purple-robed man with the silver mask had already arrived behind him. No matter how fast his movement technique was, how could he be faster than Wu Dao's main body? Knowing that there was no hope of escaping, the territorial lord of the Crying Soul Ridge turned around fiercely and transformed into his true form. It was a Qiongqi ferocious beast that lunged towards Wu Dao's main body. Be it in Tianhuang mainland or the upper world, Qiongqi ferocious beasts were living beings with powerful bloodlines. However, against Wu Dao's main body, the Qiongqi was no different from an ant. With a casual slap, Wu Dao's main body caused the Qiongqi's brain to burst and its body to explode. Wu Dao's main body reached out and captured the essence spirit of the Qiongqi. At the same time, a crystal that emitted a cold aura fell from the Qiongqi's forehead. Wu Dao's main body took it and took a look. If he was not wrong, that crystal should be the dark crystal, the Dao fruit condensed by perfected immortals in the upper world. Chapter 2640. Whether it was the nether crystal or the Dao fruit, they were both extremely precious treasures. Because it contained the Dao techniques of living beings, it would attract countless true immortal powerhouses to fight for it in any marketplace in the upper realm. With Wu Dao's current cultivation level, this nether crystal was of no use to him. However, it was the Dao fruit of the foreign realm after all. Wu Dao's original body still planned to observe it when he was free. Wu Dao's original body put the nether crystal into his storage bag and began to search the souls of the imprisoned primordial spirits. These primordial spirits were all prison generals. Their understanding of the foreign realm far surpassed that of the prison guards. Wu Dao's original body closed his eyes. Wisps of black gas spread out from his palm and wrapped around the primordial spirits. A lot of information about the foreign realm appeared in his mind. After a long time, Wu Dao's original body opened his eyes and fell into deep thought. The north ridge he was in was called the 100,000 Mountain Range. Its territory was far beyond his imagination. According to the memories of these prison generals, the territory of the north ridge was comparable to the entire heaven realm. The foreign realm he was in was called the Cold Spring Prison. These prison generals didn't know much about the Cold Spring Prison. They had never left the North Ridge in their lives. They only knew that there were a few other territories like the North Ridge in the Cold Spring Prison. In the east of the Cold Spring Prison, there was a blood-colored plain. It was said that there were no mountains there, but every inch of the land was dyed red with blood. Even the vegetation over there was covered in a layer of blood red. In the south of the Cold Spring Prison, there was a misty forest. The environment of the Cold Spring Prison was dark and gloomy. However, it was even more so in the misty forest. It was said that there were traps everywhere in the misty forest. Any living being there, even an inconspicuous plant, could explode with fatal danger. In the west of the Cold Spring Prison, there was a dark swamp. There were very few places to set foot in the dark swamp. The living environment was extremely harsh, and many strange living beings were born there. If they were careless and fell into the swamp, in just a few breaths, they would be gnawed by the numerous unknown life forms until only their bones were left and they sank into the depths of the swamp. Other than the eastern plains, the southern forest, the western marsh, and the northern ridge, there was also a large area in the middle of the Cold Spring Prison, which was known as the Central Capital. This information was only obtained by the prison generals from other sources. Up till this point of their cultivation, they had never left the North Ridge. As such, they knew more about the situation in the North Ridge. Normally speaking, just in a territory like the Northern Ridge that was comparable to the Heaven Realm, there should at least be imperial emperors born. However, the strange thing was that in the memories of the prison generals, the person who ruled the Northern Ridge and was known as the King of the Northern Ridge was not an imperial emperor, but a prison king. In the Northern Ridge, cultivation resources were extremely scarce. There would definitely be nether veins at the bottom of a mountain ridge, where nether stones could be mined for the living beings there to cultivate. Therefore, in the Northern Ridge, it was common for various factions or experts to fight over the resources of the nether vein. For example, in a mountain ridge like the Weeping Soul Ridge where the nether vein was scarce, there were also countless factions fighting over it. The mountain of corpses and bone ridges that Wu Dao's original body saw were the many living beings that had died in the Northern Ridge over the years. It was no exaggeration to say that the environment of the Northern Ridge and the entire Cold Spring Prison was even crueler and bloodier than the demon territory of the Heaven Realm. In the demon territory, there were also various factions that restrained each other and were wary of each other. There were also some rules. However, in the Cold Spring Prison in the Northern Ridge, There were no rules. Even if it was just a piece of nether stone, a fight could break out. There was only endless killing and blood here. There was only one law here, and that was the law of the jungle. When Wu Dao's original body saw this information, he understood why Commander Cui and the living beings of the Weeping Soul Ridge would attack him without any scruples. That was because in the minds of the living beings of the Cold Spring Prison, there was only killing and fighting. Of course, the reason why the living beings of the Weeping Soul Ridge were so hostile towards him was because he came from the Heaven Realm. However, in the memories of these prison generals, Wu Dao's original body did not find any information about the Heaven Realm. He also did not know how to return to the Heaven Realm. At this moment, in the sky not far away, there was the sound of rushing and killing. In the darkness, it was as if there were thousands of soldiers and horses galloping over. Wu Dao's original body woke up from his deep thoughts. He looked over and could not help but frown slightly. In the distance, there was an army formed by many living beings rushing over. There was indeed thousands of soldiers and horses. They were densely packed in black. The person in the lead was dressed in black armor and a helmet. He held a black spear in his hand. He was riding on a hellhound with 3 heads. Its mouth was split open and filled with sharp fangs. Its 6 eyes shone with a dim light. Its teeth were stained with blood and flesh. This was also a prison general. However, the aura of this prison general was far stronger than those who had died in the hands of Su Zimo. It was even stronger than the Lord of the Weeping Soul Ridge. If nothing went wrong, this prison general's cultivation level should be at the peak of the true immortal realm in the Heaven Realm. Wu Dao's original body focused and looked carefully. There was a strange rune in the middle of the prison general's eyebrows. Wu Dao's original body had seen this strange rune somewhere before. Back then, after Qinglian's original body had derived the Yin-Yang talisman scripture, she had shown this scripture to him. However, he could not recognize this strange rune. The rune in the middle of the prison general's eyebrows was similar to the rune in the Yin-Yang talisman scripture. It should be the same language. Following closely behind was a beautiful woman with fair skin. She was riding on a black divine horse. Her figure was graceful and she was half a step behind the prison general. In addition to this man and woman, there were hundreds of prison generals behind them. The remaining prison guards were uncountable. They covered the mountains and plains and were charging towards this place. They did not come with good intentions. Wu Dao's original body had no intention of dodging. Looking at the posture of this group of people, they should not be coming for him. Furthermore, with his identity, even if he was in a foreign world, there was no reason for him to avoid facing thousands of soldiers and horses. The prison general in the lead arrived on a 3-headed hellhound. He frowned when he saw the collapsed mountains and cracked earth around him. It was like a scene of ruins. A look of shock appeared on the face of the beautiful woman behind him. What kind of person did this? The Weeping Soul Ridge with a radius of 1,000,000 miles had become like this? She looked around and saw the purple-robed man with a silver mask not far away. Why is this person emitting the aura of a living person? The beautiful woman frowned slightly. This aura was extremely out of tune with the surrounding environment. It was extremely obvious. However, she soon saw the half-shattered Qiongqi lying in a pool of blood at the feet of the purple-robed man. The Lord of the Weeping Soul Ridge had fallen. Furthermore, it looked like he had died not long ago. End of chapter. Chapter 2641. The black-armored man rode on the 3-headed hellhound and slowly approached Wu Dao's original body. He stopped when he was only an arm's length away. The black-armored man's actions were extremely offensive. The 6 eyes of the hellhound stared at Wu Dao's original body with a ferocious glint. Its bloody mouth was right in front of Wu Dao's original body and was within reach. As long as its master gave the order, it was certain that it would be able to tear this purple-robed man into pieces. It was extremely disgusted by the aura of this purple-robed man. Wu Dao's original body did not show any fear and his expression turned cold. "Why aren't you bowing when you see me?" The black-armored man looked down at Wu Dao's original body and asked coldly. "Scram." Wu Dao's original body did not waste any time and only spat out a single word. The black-armored man was stunned, as though he had not expected Wu Dao's original body to speak to him in such a manner. The dense army of prison guards behind him all changed their expressions when they heard this word. "You're courting death." Hundreds of jailers released murderous auras and locked onto Su Zimo. They were ready to attack at any moment. The hellhound also barked at Wu Dao's original body. If not for the black-armored man controlling it, it would have pounced on him. The beautiful woman looked at Wu Dao's original body and shook her head slightly. She reminded him kindly, "This is the Beixian Underworld General. Why aren't you coming over to greet him?" Underworld General? Wu Dao's original body frowned slightly. In the memories that he had just searched, there were only jailers and jailers. What was a underworld general? The beautiful woman saw that Wu Dao's original body was still standing on the same spot with a hint of confusion in his calm eyes. She could not help but ask, "Don't tell me you haven't heard of the Beixian underworld general?" "Nope." Wu Dao's original body replied. He had already detected with his divine sense that the Beixian underworld general before him was merely a jailer with a different name. "Heh." The North Dark general sneered but didn't get angry. He asked, "Did you kill the soul-crying ridge's overlord?" Wu Dao's main body said, "You alone want to flatten the weeping soul ridge?" The beautiful woman asked in disbelief. Along the way, they could clearly see that the weeping soul ridge within a radius of 1,000,000 miles seemed to have undergone a huge earthquake. Mountains collapsed and the earth cracked, turning it into ruins. "Don't be nervous." The North Dark Underworld General smiled and said, "I don't care about being the overlord of the Weeping Soul Ridge. You can continue. However, all the spoils of war from the Weeping Soul Ridge must be handed over to me." After pausing for a moment, the North Dark Underworld General said, "I have to remind you not to discuss any conditions with me. Just now, I spared your life. Lord Beixian, are we just going to let him go?" Not only did he not take the initiative to come up and greet us, he even spoke rudely and offended you. Sparing his life would be letting him off too easily. The hundreds of prison generals behind the North Dark Underworld General spoke out, not planning to let Wu Dao's true body go. "What are you waiting for?" The beautiful woman reminded from the side. Wu Dao's true body burst out laughing all of a sudden. To be honest, he did not care about the spoils of war from the Weeping Soul Ridge. He would let the North Dark Underworld General take it away. However, he was extremely disgusted by the man's words and actions. Even in the heaven realm, no one had dared to threaten him for many years. By the way, the North Dark Underworld General seemed to be afraid that Wu Dao's true body would not understand. He pointed at the corpse of the Weeping Soul Ridge's overlord and said, "The underworld crystal of this beast has been dug out. It should be with you. Remember to hand over the underworld crystal too. Don't keep it for yourself." Wu Dao's true body said calmly, "I'm just reminding you out of kindness. Piss off." Before the North Dark Underworld General could make his move, the three-headed hellhound under him could no longer hold it in. It let out a furious roar and lunged at Wu Dao's true body. Noisy! Wu Dao's true body slapped down with a flip of his hand. The palm covered the sky like a huge stone mill. It smashed down and smashed the three heads of the hellhound into pieces. Poochie! A puddle of blood flowed out slowly. The hellhound's cultivation was not weak. It was a high-level hell general in the Cold Spring prison and had followed the North Dark Underworld General for many years. However, in front of Wu Dao's true body, slapping it to death was as easy as crushing an ant. "You are according to..." The North Dark Underworld General was enraged and said word by word. Wu Dao's true body flicked his finger, and a sword chi shot out. It was so fast that it disappeared between the North Dark Underworld General's eyebrows in an instant. Whether it was Hell General or Underworld General, they were equivalent to perfected immortals in the heaven realm. The difference between the two was just too big. A casual move from Wu Dao's true body, even if it was the simplest sword chi, could not be blocked by the North Dark Underworld General. However, when the sword chi from Wu Dao's true body touched the North Dark Underworld General's forehead, The strange rune on the North Dark Underworld General's forehead suddenly emitted a dark and cold power. This power seemed to want to block the sword chi's sharpness. However, the difference in power between the two was like heaven and earth. The sword chi did not stop. It instantly entered the North Dark Underworld General's sea of consciousness and pierced through his primordial spirit. The North Dark Underworld General died on the spot. This time, Wu Dao's true body did not even leave his primordial spirit behind to use the soul-searching technique. This unforeseen event happened too quickly. From the time the Hellhound was slapped to death by Wu Dao's true body to the North Dark Underworld General's death, less than a breath's time had passed. When the hundreds of Hell Generals reacted, the man and the Hound were already dead on the spot. All the prison generals were shocked and horrified. They did not expect that the North Dark Underworld General would be killed by a sword chi. They also did not expect that this mysterious purple-robed man would dare to attack the North Dark Underworld General. Was he not afraid of the ancient underworld race's revenge? Kill him. The hundreds of Hell Generals reacted quickly and roared. They took out their divine weapons and Dharma treasures and attacked Wu Dao's true body fiercely. Wu Dao's true body saw it clearly. In this cold spring prison, the techniques that these Hell Generals released were not much different from the divine powers and secret skills of the upper world. However, there was an additional cold power in these divine powers and secret skills. Wu Dao's true body was expressionless as he raised his hand and punched. Boom! This punch instantly destroyed all the divine weapons and Dharma treasures, divine powers and secret skills, and they turned into nothing. Even the hundreds of Hell Generals opposite him were blasted into clouds of blood mist by Wu Dao's true body's punch. The martial Dao true body punched these prison generals until their souls were scattered and their bodies and souls were destroyed. The densely packed Hell Generals had just charged over when they saw this scene. They were so scared that their faces turned pale and their guts were shattered. It was already too late for the Hell Generals to escape. Suddenly, a ball of black flames spread out from Wu Dao's true body. Chapter 2642. The hellfire released by Wu Dao's original body had not been fully activated. Given his current cultivation, even a peerless celestial king might not be able to withstand the hellfire if he activated it. Even 1,000th of the hellfire's power was more than enough to deal with these prison guards. The black flames spread rapidly like a prairie fire and soon engulfed many of the prison guards. These prison guards were engulfed in the hellfire. They did not even have time to scream before they were burned to ashes. The Black Army under the North Dark Underworld General's command fled in all directions. They had come quickly, but they were defeated even faster. No one dared to stay where they were. Wu Dao's original body sensed something. He looked sideways and glanced at a void in the distance before retracting his gaze. He did not kill them all. After he had shown enough strength to force these prison guards to retreat, he withdrew the hellfire. However, the group of prison guards who wanted to kill him just now had almost all died on the spot. Only the beautiful woman survived. Wu Dao's original body did not have any tender feelings for the fairer sex. However, this beautiful woman had kindly warned him earlier. She was the only one who did not have any enmity towards him. Therefore, Wu Dao's original body had spared her life. You are finished. The beautiful woman looked at the scene in front of her with fear. She looked at Wu Dao's original body and said in a trembling voice, "You killed the North Dark Underworld General. The powerhouses of Corpse Mountain Ridge will not let you off. You should escape quickly. If you can escape from the North Ridge, you might still have a chance to live. Otherwise, you will definitely die." The beautiful woman urged Wu Dao's original body. "Where is Corpse Mountain Ridge?" Wu Dao's original body was unmoved and asked in return. At this moment, a woman's voice came from afar. Corpse Mountain Ridge is one of the 10 prison ridges in the North Ridge. The Lord is called the Corpse Mountain Prison King. There are more than 100 prison king-level powerhouses under his command. At this moment, a crack suddenly appeared in the void not far away, and 3 people slowly walked out from it. The person who spoke was a young girl. She wore a long black robe that wrapped around her voluptuous and alluring body. Her skin was whiter than snow, and she looked even more beautiful than the beautiful woman in front of him. Moreover, this black-robed girl had a graceful bearing, as if she had an extraordinary background. Beside the black-robed girl stood a black-clothed man. His face was pale, but his features were handsome. His head was slightly raised, and there was a trace of arrogance between his brows. When this man and woman stood together, they looked quite compatible. However, the method of tearing through the void just now was clearly not something that the two of them could perform. The man and woman were both prison generals, but they couldn't do that. Behind the black-robed girl was an expressionless middle-aged man. His aura was powerful, indicating that he had reached the grotto heaven realm. According to the Cold Spring Prison's classification, this middle-aged man should be a prison king. However, the middle-aged man was standing behind the black-robed girl. His status seemed to be lower than hers. In fact, when the Martial Dao body had just released the hellfire, he had sensed a slight ripple in the void on the other side. While Wu Dao's main body observed the two men and the woman, he thought to himself, the number of prison kings on Corpse Mountain Ridge has probably surpassed the number of Qiankuan Academy. And Corpse Mountain Ridge is only one of the 10 great prison ridges in the North Ridge. It's obvious how powerful the North Ridge is. What's strange is that the king of the North Ridge is only a prison king with such a vast territory and deep foundation. Is it because there are no imperial emperors in the North Ridge, or is there some other reason that causes the imperial emperors to be dormant? While Wu Dao's main body was pondering, the two men and the woman in the air were also sizing him up. To be precise, it was only the black-robed girl who paid special attention to Wu Dao's main body. A trace of curiosity appeared in the depths of her eyes. As for the black-clothed man beside her and the middle-aged man behind her, they only glanced at Wu Dao's main body casually and didn't think much of it. You killed the Dark North Underworld general, so you might have a chance of survival in the North Ridge. The black-robed girl smiled and said confidently, I can protect you in the North Ridge. Wu Dao's main body didn't say anything. He was just a little surprised. The beautiful woman who survived looked at the black-robed girl and sneered, What do you have to protect him? Do you have the strength? The black-robed girl's cultivation realm wasn't much different from hers. Even if the middle-aged man behind the black-robed girl was a prison king, he couldn't stop the Corpse Mountain King's powerful foundation. With my name. The black-robed girl laughed and waved at Wu Dao's main body. Let's get to know each other. I'm Tang Qingge. Tang Qingge. The beautiful woman murmured softly. Looking at the token on the black-robed girl's waist, her expression changed drastically. She exclaimed, You are the little princess of the king of the North Ridge. That's right. Tang Qingge nodded. In the North Ridge, if there was anyone who could protect someone from Corpse Mountain Ridge, it would be the king of the North Ridge who ruled the entire North Ridge. Greetings, princess. When the beautiful woman saw Tang Qingge, she hurriedly knelt down and saluted. You go first. This has nothing to do with you. Tang Qingge gently waved at the beautiful woman. The latter hurriedly fled as if she had been pardoned. Tang Qingge descended from the sky and walked toward Wu Dao's main body. Although there were no rules or etiquette in the Cold Spring Prison, and blood was everywhere, Tang Qingge was at least friendly to him. Wu Dao's main body couldn't feel Tang Qingge's hostility. Be careful. The black-robed man frowned slightly and hurriedly followed to warn her. It's fine. Tang Qingge smiled and said, Uncle Chen is here. The black-robed man said proudly, Qing, don't worry. Uncle Chen doesn't need to do anything. If anything happens, I can kill him. As he spoke, the black-robed man waved fiercely in the direction of Wu Dao's main body. Thank you, Tang Qingge said with a smile. The black-robed man was obviously interested in Tang Qingge, and Tang Qingge didn't resist him. In the blink of an eye, the three arrived in front of Wu Dao's main body. Tang Qingge asked, What do you think? As long as you are willing to join me, Father can protect you and even help you resolve this matter. Qingge. Uncle Chen frowned slightly and reminded her in a low voice. The black-robed man also hurriedly said, Qingge, this person's origin is unknown, and he exudes the aura of a living person. You should be careful. Why do you want to help me? Wu Dao's main body asked with a calm expression. Tang Qing said, I just saw that your means are not weak. You should have touched the threshold of Prison King. It would be a pity if you were killed by Corpse Mountain. Of course, this was just an excuse. Tang Qing and the other two were traveling through space, preparing to return to Northridge City. Halfway there, they saw the scene and stopped. Under Tang Qing's insistence, they descended here. Tang Qing continued, My father has been Prison King for many years. In this regard, a few words from him will be worth tens of thousands of years of effort. Chapter 2643. Wu Dao's main body had never used his full strength, nor did he release the aura of his grotto heaven. Therefore, in the eyes of Tang Qing and the other two, Wu Dao body's cultivation was at most at the threshold of Jail King. The King of the North Ridge, Wu Dao's main body murmured thoughtfully. He still didn't know enough about the Cold Spring Prison. The King of the North Ridge was definitely one of the people who knew the most about this foreign world. Tang Qing saw that Wu Dao's main body was silent and thought that he still had some concerns. She smiled and said, Don't worry. Although Father is the King of the North Ridge, he loves me very much. As long as I beg him, he will definitely help to resolve this matter. Although the status of a Dark North general isn't low, it's just a matter of a word from Father. Uncle Chen frowned and urged, Your Highness, the King's birthday banquet is approaching. Let's hurry back and not stay here for too long. The black-clothed man glanced at Wu Dao's main body and said, Qing, why waste time with this person? I still want to pay my respects to Uncle and see the King of the North Ridge's glory. The King of the North Ridge's birthday banquet? Wu Dao's main body's heart skipped a beat. If it was the King of the North Ridge's birthday banquet, this would probably be a rare occasion in the North Ridge. Various forces, including the 10 great prisons, would probably be present. Just the Corpse Mountain Ridge alone had hundreds of jail kings. How many jail kings would be present at the King of the North Ridge's birthday banquet? The easiest way to understand this foreign world as quickly as possible was to communicate with the top powerhouses of this world. Even if the Princess of the North Ridge didn't appear, Wu Dao's main body was planning to find the jail kings here to understand the situation. Since it was the King of the North Ridge's birthday, with so many jail kings present, it would save Wu Dao's main body a lot of effort. Hey, masked man. When the black-robed man saw that Wu Dao's main body was silent, he sneered, At the King of the Northern Ridge's birthday banquet, all the kings will be present. Be careful that you won't be able to handle such a grand occasion. Wu Dao's original body was expressionless. He didn't even look at the black-clothed man. He just pointed at him and asked Tang Qing, Who is this person? This black-robed man was too noisy. Wu Dao's main body was considering whether or not to crush him to death. You don't deserve to know my name. The black-clothed man said proudly, You only need to know that I am the Southern Forest's young master. The Cold Spring Prison was divided into East Plains, South Forest, West Lake, North Ridge, and Central Capital. The so-called Southern Forest Young Master should be the son of the Southern Misty Forest King. Chen Bo faintly said, The Southern Forest Young Master and His Highness both cultivate in the Central Capital and have known each other for many years. They are well matched in terms of social status. During His Majesty's birthday banquet, the Southern Forest Young Master will also send someone to the Northern Range to propose marriage. Chen Bo's words were actually a warning to Wu Dao's main body, reminding him to pay attention to his identity and not have any improper thoughts. The birthday banquet of the King of the Northern Range was also a double blessing. At the mention of this, Tang Qing looked at the Southern Forest Young Master beside her and smiled. In fact, she was still a little confused about this matter. To be precise, he didn't dislike the Southern Forest Young Master, but he didn't like her. However, as her father and Chen Bo had said, they were well matched in terms of social status. Perhaps this person was the most suitable candidate for her. In fact, Chen Bo was overthinking things. Wu Dao's main body and Tang Qing had only met by chance. He had no interest in her at all. However, since this Southern Forest Young Master was going to become Tang Qing's Dao companion, he couldn't just crush him to death. It was supposed to be a joyous occasion. There was no need to turn it into a funeral. Furthermore, Wu Dao's main body still wanted to attend the birthday banquet of the king of the Northern Range. If he killed this son-in-law of the king of the Northern Range, there was no need for him to attend the birthday banquet. He could only kill his way through. Wu Dao's main body ignored the Southern Forest young master and nodded to Tang Qing. I can go with you guys to take a look. We'll talk about whether to join Northern Range in the future. All right. Tang Qing smiled. Follow me first. When the time comes, I'll bring you to see the power and foundation of Northern Range. You decide for yourself. I haven't asked for your name yet. Tang Qing turned to look at Wu Dao's main body. Araki Takashi. Wu Dao's main body replied indifferently. Your Highness, let's go. Chen Bo urged once more. All right. Tang Qing waved to Wu Dao's main body and said, Come to my side. Be closer. Chen Bo is preparing to tear through the void and perform a long-distance teleportation. If you're too far away and out of Chen Bo's range, you'll be swallowed by the endless void and never be able to return. Wu Dao's main body nodded and did not refuse. He stepped forward and came to Tang Qing's side. Seeing this, the Southern Forest young master's eyes turned gloomy and he snorted coldly. Chen Bo glanced at Wu Dao's main body and released his Grotto Heaven-level power. He tore through the void and brought Tang Qing, the Southern Forest young master, and Wu Dao's main body into the spatial tunnel. The four of them kept shuttling through the spatial tunnel. Wu Dao's main body looked calm. It was just that he was wearing a silver mask and others could not see his expression. When the four of them tore through the void and walked out of the spatial tunnel, the Southern Forest young master could not help but mock. How do you feel about that, Araki Takashi? Remember this feeling. This may be the only time in your life that you'll be teleported through a spatial tunnel. We were still in the Crying Soul Ridge earlier, and now we're in the center of the North Ridge. Wu Dao's main body ignored the Southern Forest young master and only looked around. Not far ahead, there was a huge city that occupied a vast area. It was completely black and had rugged rocks of strange shapes. There was a sense of eeriness in its majestic aura. Even the royal cities of the divine firmament celestial realms, three great celestial kingdoms, were much smaller compared to this city. North Ridge City. As the king of the North Ridge's birthday banquet approached, the North Ridge City also became noisy and lively. Not only Wu Dao's main body and the other three, but there were also many forces and cultivators in other directions who were heading towards the North Ridge City. When many cultivators saw Wu Dao's main body and the other three coming out of the void, they were all in awe and hurriedly made way. Let's go. Tang Qing smiled at Wu Dao's main body and said. Wu Dao's main body followed behind Tang Qing and suddenly asked through voice transmission, You want to recruit me under the king of the North Ridge, but you don't care about my strength, right? The king of the North Ridge had hundreds of thousands of mountains and countless experts under his command. This Tang Qing obviously had other motives. However, Wu Dao's main body could not feel Tang Qing's hostility, so he did not care. Even if Tang Qing really had any ill intentions, Wu Dao's main body was not afraid. Tang Qing was silent for a while before saying through voice transmission, I'm a little interested in your background. You shouldn't be from the Cold Spring Prison, right? Chapter 2644. I'm from the Celestial Realm. Wu Dao's true body did not intend to hide his origin, and there was no need for that. The Celestial Realm? Tang Qing looked at Wu Dao's true body in disbelief and asked, You really are from the Celestial Realm? Is it the Celestial Realm of the medium-class world? Wu Dao's true body nodded slightly. How is that possible? Tang Qing still could not believe it. She said, I heard Father say that there is a powerful barrier between the medium-class world and the infernal court. The experts of the medium-class world, even those who have cultivated to the level of emperors, cannot enter the infernal court. It's also a freak combination of factors that led me to this place. Wu Dao's true body did not explain further. He could not explain this matter clearly. Even he was now in a state of confusion and had countless questions in his heart. What is the infernal court you just mentioned? Wu Dao's true body sensed that there was an extremely important message hidden in Tang Qing'er's words and asked, "Is the infernal court not part of the medium-class world?" Normally speaking, the various realms of the medium-class world were separated by a boundless sea of stars. Although the realm of cultivators was too low and it was difficult for them to cross the stars, generally speaking, there were no such barriers when entering other realms. Not to mention imperial emperors, even true immortals and immortal kings could enter other realms. The existence of such a barrier between the infernal court and the medium-class world was somewhat abnormal. Of course not. Tang Qing'er said, "The infernal court is isolated from the medium-class world. It is an existence on par with the medium-class world and below the upper-class world." Hearing this, Wu Dao's true body felt a chill in his heart. One had to know that the entire medium-class world was known as the 3,000 realms. The celestial realm, the great wilderness, the dragon realm, the sword realm, the Wutong realm, and so on were all medium-class worlds. And the so-called infernal court could actually stand on par with the entire medium-class world. The cold spring dungeon we're in is just one of the many hells in infernal court. Tang Qing'er continued, "There are 9 hells in the entire infernal court. They are the heavy spring prison, Akron prison, cold spring prison, Een spring prison, nether spring prison, lower spring prison, bitter spring prison, black spring prison, and the first hell black spring prison in the center." 9 hells? Wu Dao's main body was secretly shocked. This infernal court was even more mysterious and shocking than he had imagined. Just the north ridge of the cold spring prison was comparable to the territory of the heaven realm. What kind of world was the entire cold spring prison, or even the 9 hells? Prison, prison, prison. Could it be that the seamless emperor truly wanted to suppress the 9 hells? Thinking back to the many infernal realm creatures just now, when they heard that he came from the heaven realm, they revealed a strong hatred and hostility towards him. This speculation was not impossible. Wu Dao's original body asked, "Why are the people here so hostile towards the upper realm?" Tang Qing'er said, "There are many theories. Some say that the infernal court's nether chi has been drying up over the years, making cultivation more difficult. It has something to do with the upper worlds. Some say that the former Lord of Hell was suppressed by a powerhouse from the upper realm an era ago." Hearing this, Wu Dao's heart stirred. An epoch ago should have been this seamless epic. In the Hell of Avicii, he had encountered 2 wills. Could one of them be the Lord of Hell? In that case, who was the other one? Tang Qing'er continued, "Some say that we don't have to live in this dark and gloomy infernal court. We could have had a better environment outside. It's all because of the oppression and humiliation of the upper realm creatures that we've been suppressed here all year round." After pausing for a while, Tang Qing'er smiled and said, "I don't know the specific reason. In short, the creatures of infernal realm are very hostile to the upper world. You must not reveal your identity and origin." "If that's the case, why did you recruit me?" Wu Dao's original body asked. He could feel that Tang Qing'er's attitude towards him was different from the other creatures of hell. At least, there was no hostility. Tang Qing'er said, "I've never been to the upper realm, and I've never come into contact with the creatures there. Who knows what the upper realm is like? For a world that I've never seen with my own eyes and creatures that I've never come into contact with, I only have curiosity in my heart. There's no hatred. I recruited you because I want to understand the upper realm through you. I hope that if there's a chance, you can tell me about it." At this point, Tang Qing'er's eyes revealed a deep curiosity. Wu Dao's original body nodded. The 2 of them communicated through their consciousness. After a while, the 4 of them had already arrived in front of Northridge City. When the guards at the city gate saw the token on Tang Qing'er's waist, they revealed looks of respect and hurriedly bowed to make way. The 4 of them entered the city successfully. Wu Dao's original body walked in the largest city in Northridge. Everything around him was filled with novelty. There was a civilization that was completely different from the heavenly realm. Whether it was the architectural style or the people coming and going, including every detail in the ancient city, it revealed a dark style that belonged to hell. It had a unique atmosphere. The colors in hell were rather monotonous. Almost everything in the ancient city was a combination of black and red. In the gloominess, there was a faint trace of blood and terror. The birthday banquet of the King of Northridge was approaching. Northridge City was also filled with joy. On both sides of the streets, there were many lanterns that exuded a blood-red light. In the dark ancient city, it was as if ancient ferocious beasts were glaring with their scarlet eyes. Some cultivators had just hung up the lanterns when Wu Dao's original body glanced at it and narrowed his eyes slightly. Blood was still dripping from the bottom of the lantern, emitting a faint smell of blood. Those lanterns were truly soaked in fresh blood before being released. Such a terrifying thing was extremely normal in this ancient city of hell. Furthermore, it was perfectly compatible with the surrounding environment and did not feel out of place at all. In the Cold Spring prison, there was a strict hierarchy. On the streets, only prison generals could swagger in the middle of the streets. There were narrow spaces on both sides of the streets for many prison generals to pass through. In the sky above the ancient city, only prison kings could pass through at will. Of course, among the four of Wu Dao's original body, Tang Qing had a noble status as the daughter of the King of Northridge. Hence, no one stopped her from flying through the air. "Yo, isn't this the little princess of Northridge?" Not far away, a voice with a hint of frivolity sounded. The four of them looked over. Not far away, a large group of cultivators was flying through the air. The person in the lead was dressed in a jade green robe and was playing with two fireballs that burned with green flames in his hands. That person's cultivation realm was only that of a prison general. However, behind him stood a prison king with a terrifying aura and eyes that seemed to be burning with green flames. That young man seemed to have a noble status. End of chapter. Chapter 2645. So, it's the young master of Jade Flame Ridge. When Tang Qing saw who it was, she cupped her fists and greeted him. Like Corpse Mountain Ridge, Jade Flame Ridge was one of the 10 great prison ridges. The young master of Jade Flame Ridge said with a smile, "The little princess of the North Ridge is cultivating in the Middle Capital. It's truly rare for you to rush back after hearing about the birthday banquet of the King of the North Ridge." Tang Qing said, "I naturally can't miss my father's 800,000th birthday banquet." Of course. The smile in the eyes of the young master of Jade Flame Ridge deepened as he said, "It would be a pity if you missed the birthday banquet of the King of the North Ridge this time." "Young master," the Hell King expert of Jade Flame Ridge said softly, "we should leave." Understood. The young master of Jade Flame Ridge understood and laughed out loud. He led a large group of people and brushed past Tang Qing and the others. Wu Dao's true body felt strange. Logically speaking, Jade Flame Ridge was only one of the 10 great prison ridges and was still under the rule of the King of the North Ridge. However, in Northridge City, under the feet of the King of the North Ridge, he did not seem to have much respect for Tang Qing. "That's him." At this moment, a stern shout came from not far away. "That person wearing a purple robe and a silver mask is him." Wu Dao's true body and the others looked towards the source of the voice. They saw another large group of cultivators heading towards them. They were aggressive and did not come with good intentions. The corpse chi on their bodies was extremely heavy and lifeless. Even their skin was slightly green. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. Tang Qing frowned slightly and sighed. "Someone from Corpse Mountain Ridge?" Wu Dao's true body asked. Tang Qing nodded. "To think that we would encounter them here in advance. However, don't worry. With me around, they won't do anything to you." The reason why Tang Qing protected Wu Dao's true body was because she was curious about the upper realm. She wanted to obtain some information about the upper realm from Wu Dao's true body. However, when this scene landed in the eyes of the Southern Cinewood Forest's young master, he had a different feeling. The young master of Southern Forest was displeased and his gaze was dark. "So, it's the young master of Corpse Mountain Ridge." Tang Qing took the initiative to step forward and shielded Wu Dao's true body behind her as she greeted the young man in the lead. "Little princess of the Northern Ridge?" The young master of the Corpse Mountain Ridge frowned and waved his hand. Get out of my way. I want to find the purple-robed man behind you. Uncle Chen's face darkened. He looked at the young master of the Corpse Mountain Ridge and said coldly, "This is our princess of the North Ridge. Watch your tone and attitude." A jail king behind the Corpse Mountain Ridge young master also stood up and said, "Brother Chen, this has nothing to do with North Ridge. I advise you not to interfere." Tang Qing smiled and said, "Everyone, I was there when this happened. There were some misunderstandings that led to a fight between the two sides. I hope that everyone will give my father some face and not pursue this matter further." What? Are you saying that the North Dark Underworld General of Corpse Mountain Ridge died for nothing? The Hell King of Corpse Mountain Ridge narrowed his eyes and said aggressively, "Little Princess of North Ridge, you have to think carefully. The Dark North General is from the ancient Ming tribe. The ancient underworld race is indeed noble in hell, but Beixian is just an underworld general." Tang Qing gradually put away the smile on her face and asked coldly, "My father is the king of North Ridge. Is his face not worth as much as an underworld general?" The Corpse Mountain Ridge young master sneered and said, "The king of North Ridge's face, huh?" Uncle Chen had originally looked down on Wu Dao's original body. But now, the Corpse Mountain Ridge young master and the jail king's attitude showed that they were looking down on the king of North Ridge. Chen Bo couldn't tolerate this. "Both of you." Uncle Chen narrowed his eyes as a cold glint flickered in his eyes. He said slowly, "Let me remind you that this is Northridge City, not your Corpse Mountain Ridge. Be careful of your loose lips. The king of North Ridge's birthday banquet is coming soon. I don't mind using the bones and blood of a ridge to liven up the atmosphere." It was a blatant threat. The Corpse Mountain Ridge young master and the jail king's expressions changed and became wary. "Young master, bear with it first. There is no need to rush." The jail king reminded him secretly. The Corpse Mountain Ridge young master's expression changed. After a moment of silence, he suddenly smiled and said, "Okay, North Ridge is really impressive. Let's wait and see." With that, the Corpse Mountain Ridge young master waved his hand and left with the practitioners behind him. Looking at the backs of the Corpse Mountain Ridge people, Uncle Chen snorted and said in a gloomy tone, "After the king's birthday banquet, I think it's time for the Corpse Mountain Ridge to change people. Let's go." Tang Qing said, "This matter is over." Wu Dao's original body saw the whole process and felt that it was not simple. North Ridge City seemed to be peaceful and festive, but in fact, there was an undercurrent surging. Whether it was Biflame Ridge or Corpse Mountain Ridge, their attitude towards Tang Qing was obviously a little strange. Moreover, the Corpse Mountain Ridge young master's words had a hidden meaning. The young master of Biflame Ridge seemed to want to say something, but he was reminded by the prison king of Biflame Ridge and left first. It seems that the king of North Ridge's birthday banquet will not be peaceful. Wu Dao's original body thought to himself. The Southern Sinewood Forest young master also saw the scene just now. He muttered in his heart and was a little confused. However, he did not think too much about it. He walked forward with Tang Qing and the others and entered the palace of North Ridge City. Not long after entering the palace, a group of people walked over. The person in the lead was tall and had a powerful aura. Every move he made exuded the domineering aura of a king. "Big brother." When Tang Qing saw this person, she smiled and greeted him from afar. The Crown Prince of North Ridge, Tang Hao, had arranged for this North Ridge birthday banquet. He was a jail king. "Qing is back." Tang Hao's gaze turned. When he saw Tang Qing, he smiled and strode over. "Your Highness." Uncle Chen bowed. Tang Hao nodded slightly and looked at Tang Qing. He smiled and said, "You've been cultivating in the Middle Capital and haven't seen Father for many years. Father was quite happy to hear that you had returned." After a pause, Tang Hao looked at the Southern Sinewood Forest young master and sized him up. "I believe this must be the Southern Sinewood Forest young master." "Greetings, Your Highness." The Southern Sinewood Forest young master hurriedly cupped his hands and bowed. Tang Hao smiled and nodded. "You're indeed a handsome young man with an imposing appearance. Father should be very satisfied when he sees you. Where is Father? Let's go pay him a visit." Tang Qing'er asked. This is... Tang Hao's gaze turned and landed on Wu Dao's main body. He narrowed his eyes slightly. For some reason, Tang Hao could not sense the cultivation realm of Wu Dao's main body. Moreover, Wu Dao's main body exuded a kind of aura that was incompatible with the surrounding environment. This is a friend I met on the way back. I'll bring him to pay a visit to Father, Tang Qing'er explained simply. Father is resting in his chambers. You guys go ahead. As Tang Hao spoke, he probed Wu Dao's main body. However, no matter how he cast his spell, he could not see the depth of Wu Dao's main body. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.